It's like 2 minute television.
Well, that's what the different kind of grandmother and they do. About the whole thing.
You guys should be able to get around there.
I just can't stay up that late.
Oh, even. I went to bed really early last night. I've had company since Thursday. I love these guys. I played tourist for 2 days. I'm done.
I thought so too.
I
I wore a long meeting because I figured it was gonna be cold. Me too. I always wear long sleeves.
You have
'cause I'm always
silk
cold.
turn-
It's not like that.
Oh, so, yeah, it was.
It's because the Civic Center's all open too. And in 20 minutes, we'll say, can you turn it back up? Yeah, yeah, when it gets cold again. But it does feel warm.
Let me tell you, I was in Colorado last week and it was amazing. The weather was 50 at night, 70 in the day.
Zero humidity.
0 humidity. I love that.
Okay, Fran, tell me when you're ready. I don't want to. Okay. Okay, it's 9 a.m. Tuesday, July 1st. We're going to call the City Council Priorities and Strategies Goals Workshop meeting to order. First item is citizen comments and reports. Fran, I don't have any cards, so does that mean there are none? Okay, we move on to item 3, reports and general information. Item A, the general financial overview, fund descriptions, fund balances, tax rate definitions, code of ordinances, state law requiring hotel occupancy funds. Darla, it should say fun instead of funds, right? Fun. Funds. 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 Fun. 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 General financial fund.
Yes, this stuff is so exciting for all. But we usually kick off our budget season just to talk about all the different buckets of money that we have, if you will. Funds are all kept separate and they're all different buckets that are used for specific things. So I'll just go through quickly. The general fund is the main operating fund of the city. If you will, it's used for the things like health, safety, welfare. It's basically everything that's not required to be kept separately. Main revenue sources, property tax, franchise tax, sales tax, our golf cart permit and STR rental are things that other cities don't always have, but they're pretty big for us, and building permits. Hotel motel fund is we collect all of the 7% of tax in this fund and then distribute it out 3.25% to the chamber. We're required to give 3% of hotel tax to sales and marketing. And back in 2017, we allocated to the chamber an additional 0.25% to be used for convention center project is why we increased that. And it has remained as additional allocation to the chamber since 2017. Hotel motel special fund takes that same amount, 3.25%, used for all eligible hotel motel tax purposes within the city. And the facility fund goes to support the tourist facilities of the Civic Center and Community Center specifically. It gets 0.5% of the hotel tax. But we are doing a large transfer from hotel motel special to the facility fund for the addition construction to the Civic Center. Beach fund supports lifeguard operations, beach cleaning, patrolling, parking enforcement, beach EMS, beach fire, restroom facilities. It receives 2% of the hotel motel tax back from the state's 6%. We also have all of our beach parking permits go into this fund, and those are its main sources of revenue. We get about 130,000 from the GLO from a beach grant. Nature Preserve Fund, used for construction and operations in the nature preserve. It has no revenue sources, so it gets its support from hotel motel special. Debt service, this is a listing of all of the debt issues that we have. The first section is debt that is dependent on the tax rate. And the next section is paid by other sources. The rec center and the parks may be able to be paid by other sources too. That's going to come out in the tax calculation. Construction fund is where we put the money from the street and drainage projects. The construction of the recreation center bond is in there. The CDBG drainage grant that we got from the feds is in there with a match from the city. Street maintenance, we've taken some money that we had in general fund in prior years, put it into a special street maintenance fund. We don't have any money allocated this year for a transfer, but at the end of the year, we may do a transfer and a budget amendment. Court technology is exactly what it says, same as court security. A portion of each ticket collected has to go separately into these two funds. We also have a new juvenile fund, which I did not mention because it's a portion of tickets too, but we haven't had any. So it's sitting at 0, but it's required now to be kept separate. Airport operations, exactly what it says. Its source of revenue is fuel sales and leases on the hangars. Harbor fund accounts for harbor, gas, and sanitation. Those are your enterprise funds that are supported by exactly what it says, harbor, gas, and sanitation. Impact fee zone 1. We've been using the impact fees from this zone to pay for the 11th Street bond and 361 projects. Impact fee zone 2 is used to pay for the beach access road bond, drainage impact fees. We've started collecting that a couple years ago. That fund's been building. Park dedication fees. We are going to propose in this budget to drain that fund for assistance with construction of the rec center. RDC gets a 0.5-cent sales tax and is used to support parks. COVID-19 fund, we still have some money sitting there from the CARES Act from a few years ago, but that has been allocated for an ambulance that we approved purchase a little over 2 years ago. It should be here in November. Yeah, November will be 3 years, and that money's
That's
just
over.
been sitting there. The money's been sitting there waiting to pay for that ambulance. When it gets here, not if, when it gets here. Hurricane Recovery Fund, exactly what it says. It's used to support Hurricane Harvey efforts. And then here is a
Darling, real
list.
quick, do we consider the RTA?
It's in the general fund.
Oh, that's thrown in the general fund. Okay.
The RTA is accounted
That sales
for.
tax, okay.
Yeah, the RTA is accounted for in the general fund. But the RTA turns around and reimburses us. We bill them every month for all of our labor, all of our fuel. Of course, they buy the buses and that type of thing, but we reimburse, we bill them for their expenses and they reimburse us, and the RTA is basically a wash. So, but it is a department in the general fund. The next page gives you the beginning balance, beginning 9/30 of 24. An estimate of what you think the change will be in the year, and an estimated ending fund balance at the end of the year. You want to go over any of those, but that's for reference.
Just the two, like the, I believe the airport is a negative 146K and then the gas utility a negative 480. So in regards to those negative balances,
We're working slowly to chip away at them. The airport is because of that additional TxDOT aviation match that we had to do.
5 million.
The 5 million, because we started that match back in 2012. And it was like 100 and something thousand. And then by the time they awarded the contract, they said, you gotta give more money. We'll see how it comes out if we want to the airport just slowly dig itself out of that hole, or if we want to do a transfer from the general fund. Originally, the original match for TxDOT aviation way back was from the general fund. Because the airport did.
I think if we can get those first row of hangars
built.
off of, or just lease the dirt.
Mhm. Those
We can
leases
build.
are big. When we had, I remember what year that was. We did an auction for a lease.
Oh, yeah.
And it went pretty high, so that dug us out of the hole we had in.
Yeah.
If we have something like that again, it would dig us out. And the gas, that is due to some of the Harvey recoveries where that's heading. And Harvey has had a negative balance showing on the books on your monthly financials right now, but I need to make the transfer of the tax note that is assisting to pay for the fire station from the construction fund to Harvey, and that'll bring it back in the black for right now. I told you I was gonna work on a hotel motel special pro forma of what it's possibly is going to look like with all these projects we have going on. We began this year with 9.6 million in the hotel motel special fund. Here's a list of your revenues for the year. Estimated, we're bringing in about 4.8 million a year in hotel tax into that fund. Interest, STR lot. So we're bringing in about 5 million a year in revenues. For some reason, when I converted this to PDF, it did not make my column wide enough. So that total available funds is 14,816,905. And these are our expenses for the year. Total about 6.1 million. So we've got a carry forward of about 8.6 estimated at the end of this year. Down below, you'll see projects that we've already committed for. The wayfinding has about 1.8 million left on it. Future required for the Civic Center project of 2.6.
What's the wayfinding project?
That is.
Citywide signage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The rec center needs for the first year. Remember when we awarded that contract, we were about 6.5 million needed. So if we take half of it from next year's budget, and then the community center to finish its improvements. So you've got about 7.9 of future commitment. Takes down your current revenues, but we should be getting in about 4.8. 2.3 is the other expenses not allocated to projects. So we should in 2026 down to about 3.2. And of course, we need another 3.2 for the rec center, but we'll be getting another 4.8 that year also. So that's going to give you a balance of about 4.8 million at 9/30/27 if no large projects are added. Now the venue tax, if the venue tax comes into place, that money can be used for these Civic Center project,
So that brings back another 2.6
which would be
million.
huge. Well, it'll bring back more than that because 2.6 is just what's needed.
No, that's what I
Next
mean.
year,
You
yeah,
could
exactly.
put that back in or keep that in.
It would make us really healthy if we can get that passed. If that doesn't pass, then that's probably the picture you're looking at. The next page really shouldn't be in there. That was building those projects and it shouldn't have converted over. I also put in there just a fund balance history of how this has grown. And you can see that when we got down to post Harvey is when it started growing, but it really did the leap when COVID hit. And our STRs increased. Yeah, we went from 3.6 million in 2018 to 5.4 to 7.6. And then the big jump in 21 up to 11.5.
Based on where hotel motel type revenue is so far, at least this calendar year, maybe not our fiscal year. Are there, and I think you built your pro forma probably based on a 9.6 number. It could be a little higher depending on where we end up. Or did you use your pro forma?
No, I use the
Using current
using
tax
current,
revenue all the way through May,
using current all the way through September.
September of last year.
Yes, I took current collections plus collections of the summer of last year, which this year may be better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not,
Yeah.
we don't need to necessarily bank on that, but I just.
Right.
Might, maybe there's a little more money.
Right. Yeah, I don't have the estimate for 2025 in there. I'm estimating that to end out at about
Similar-
8.6,
Okay, I think.
about 1 million down from where we were last year. So depending on how quickly the draws go on the Civic Center project. good old property tax rate definitions. So the no new revenue tax rate is the rate that is set, which is considered absolutely no tax increase. This is found by taking the entire appraised value of the city and coming up with a rate that will give you the same amount of revenue in tax collections as it did in the current year. Plus, it will allow you to bring in revenue for the new construction that has been added to the city that brings demands onto your infrastructure, your staff, your public safety, et cetera. The voter approval rate is that rate plus a 3.5% revenue increase. And you cannot go over this rate by 0.000001. If you do, it's an automatic election by the voters at November. Unused increment rate is something that we do not use. Really hardly any cities use it, so I'm not even going to talk about it. There's two parts of the tax rate, the interest in seeking, which goes to pay off all the bonds that are out for the city, and the maintenance and operations. This is a part that goes into the general fund to support all your city departments. Combinations of those two tax rates together will give you your current rate. Our current rate this year is 0.191962, with the breakdown there between M&O and INS. So if you have a rate that we propose that is higher than the no new revenue rate, we will have to have one public hearing, but you can have your public hearing and the vote of the tax rate all in the same meeting. So the next page just gives you a breakdown of how our citizen tax dollars are spent. The total tax rate for a homeowner within the city of Port Aransas city limits is $1.28. 0.15% of that total tax bill goes to the city. County gets more than we do, 18.7%. And the school district is the majority of our taxes, which is 58% of all your tax dollars. Are blessed that.
Is
you
the
know,
hospital district getting bigger and bigger? That used to be a little skinny sliver.
It is, their rate is still very low, but our rate keeps dropping. Our rate has been dropping.
I mean, we're
so
almost like
percentage-wise.
half of us.
Yeah, they are. Fortunately, we don't pay into Del Mar here. Del Mar is more than us. So if we paid into Del Mar, you would be paying more in Del Mar taxes than you are in city taxes. A lot of other people in the coastal bend are looking closer to $2 per 100 versus $1.28. The next page just shows you your city tax rates in the coastal bend area, and you can see ours is by far the lowest. The next closest to us is Fulton, which I don't think they have any services.
No.
And Rockport is more than double us, and they're the next closest. The next is a pretty long article, but I like to include this in here every year for everyone to refer to if they ever want to read it, about what cities need to know about hotel motel tax, how they can spend it. It's a long article because different cities have different regulations, and we in Port Aransas, we're very blessed that we are an eligible coastal community, and we can spend our hotel tax on things that other cities cannot. One of those parks, not many cities can spend hotel tax on parks, and we can. And that has been a big asset for us. The next page, on page 67, is just a copy of our ordinance of stating how the distribution of revenue is, and the breakdown down in blue is currently what we are doing: 3.25% to the chamber, 3.25% to hotel motel, and 0.5% from facility fund. As I've stated, we can. That's always y'all's call. If you want to take the chamber down to the 3% and hotel motel back up to the 3.5%, that is an option.
Will you tell us what that would give us? The estimated revenue?
Yes, I have
That
Excel
breakdown
here.
really quickly?
I skipped the article. The article is something for your viewing it. What was that? 4.7. You got divided by what, 20? $168,000.
The 40% that we appropriated back to the CVB after Harvey to help them build their conference center fund.
Is that money held somewhere for the convention center fund? Or is it just used? But
That's a question.
That's a question
them.
for chamber. I have no idea.
Shaking his head over there.
Sales marketing.
okay,
So they've been using it for sales and marketing versus for their operations versus the convention center because. But about 168, 170,000. And that's kind of an overview of the breakdown and the finances and how the different departments. Or if anyone has any questions?
Chad, you're the new guy.
I wish I would have had that before my first meeting, because at least now I keep asking the questions, where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
That would have been-
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah, no.
makes a lot,
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, especially that fund description can really give you a good breakdown of all our buckets.
Well,
I feel much better now, so thank you.
and the important part to remember is how the money gets here. And then there's only a couple of buckets that get it here, but then once it's in a bucket, then there's a fund within a bucket. So you have to kind of follow the trail. And Darla can give you so many more lessons.
I learned.
For
Right in
free.
your shop. Not necessarily.
I'll be saving that one section.
Yes.
Back there.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
That's your binder to keep forever and ever.
You got 3 more coming. Yes. All right. Any other questions for the general financial overview? Okay, moving on to item B, which is the carryover of our capital projects.
All right, carryover projects. So we have 10 major carryover projects. City Hall Civic Center renovation started in May, probably a 14 to 16 month project. Things are going good, a little noisy here, but things are moving along at a good pace. Community Center started in May. We should maybe go beyond the October 1st date by, we're thinking maybe 10% of the project, 15% of the project might go into the next budget. Beach Access Road B, we had to add a turning lane, a deceleration turning lane coming off the highway. That was TxDOT's request in order to give us our driveway permit. So that was designed and it's been submitted and approved by TxDOT. So we should be giving them the notice to proceed this week. But that will definitely carry over into the next budget. Fire EMS, we're at about 50% complete, definitely going to carry over. Public Works Building started in April. That one will carry over into the next budget. Public Safety Building, that's going to be a close one. Possibly late August, so we'll hold our breath on that one. Rec Center, notice to proceed will be going out next week. Just getting contracts signed. That one's probably next two budgets. Probably about an 18-month project. Gas system, we're on the home stretch, but I think we'll have just a little bit of carryover. We're at about 94% completed on that one, but I think we'll have a little carryover into the next budget. That's a FEMA project. Lifeguard building, that was put on hold because the fire and EMS uses that location for the laydown yard. So until that gets a little bit further along, that one's on hold. So that one's definitely going to carry over. And then the gas department building is sitting at about 70% complete. And that one's kind of in line with the public safety building. It'll be close, but possibly finished. So those are our carryover
And then
projects.
wayfinding actually has.
Oh,
a
yeah,
dollar amount.
yeah.
We just left that off. Has a big dollar amount
Yeah.
tied to it, so.
Any questions on the carryover projects?
They won't be carried over if they're done in August.
Correct. Well, actually, even in September.
Yes, it's
And when was public safety supposed to be done? Like last December or?
yeah,
Around
What they
December. Yeah.
Is that what it was?
yeah, they say Christmas.
And there's been big, like for example, the jail doors. That's been a huge hang up. It's China components reassembled in Canada, and just we had 5 months of tariff stuff and nothing moving on any of it. So we've had a lot of
And they've
lot
had
of
some
delays.
Contractor issues that they've. had to
and we've had
resolve.
contractor issues. We've had architect issues.
Yeah.
For the other projects we're doing, learning or being exposed or having experience what's happened on some of these delays. We're not putting jail doors in the rec center, but are there things we're learning that we can catch before we get delayed on some of the other projects? Possibly.
If you have a different general contractor, yes.
Okay, all right.
I think it'd be possible for these general contract, when they start getting really far behind, to come talk to council and tell us what's going on.
Yeah, we've made that suggestion numerous times. They were here last month but didn't speak, so.
And cities don't put penalties on contractors.
Oh, yeah.
No.
for performances or.
Yeah, the fire EMS station is a week away from entering into penalties.
That's part of what you do on your contract.
Yeah.
Did the public safety building not have?
No, it'll go into penalties starting in August.
Got it.
All right. Moving on to item C. The report card on our previous budget cycles council objective.
So this is from last year's, these were the, some but not all approved goals workshop, list that you guys put out. So I'll go over them.
I don't know why this happened, but when it converted to PDF, it went on 2 different pages.
Yeah.
So your page 72 is the exclamation.
Yeah.
I just now noticed
Yeah.
that.
So,
Should have gone.
relocation efforts for the animal shelter. Number one, relocation of the animal shelter, that's underway. We've done the jurisdictional determination letter to the Corps. We've also submitted the updated capital plan to the General Land Office Leasing Department. So we're waiting to hear their response. Once we can get the green light from them, it opens up that area for development. That's the Piper Boulevard area. Number two, beautification of Royal Palm Cemetery, that's underway. We have a new road being built through there. It's lined, has a little concrete edging on each side, so it really kind of tricked it out really nice. So it's gonna look really pretty. And then we're proposing some landscaping in this year's goals workshop. Installation of the traffic light at Avenue G and Station. It's been designed and it is ready to go out to bid. Lobbying services for 25 legislative session. Those are completed and we will not be using them for the special session that's coming up. There's a special session that's getting ready to kick off for the next month and a half, I think. So, but there's not a whole lot in there that we need to track. So we can watch that in-house. Streetscaping design and development. That's been put in with the venue tax. So that's pending the venue tax election in November. Crosswalk updates. So there's kind of two parts. There's crosswalks in the wayfinding project that were initially going to be at the Allister and Highway intersection, but because TxDOT's a little persnickety about what their crosswalks need to look like, we're moving those to other intersections within the city. So Nicole and Colleen are working on that through the wayfinding project. And then the other crosswalk update is looking at a crosswalk at Channel Vista, trying to get something across from Channel Vista. So that's working with TxDOT on that one. And then we did do some some lights at the Avenue C and Avenue A crosses over Allister. If you'll notice, there's the flashing yellow pedestrian lights. So we added those two. Charlie's Pasture Bulkhead Park improvements. So that was kind of on hold pending the dollar amount that council decided to remove from the $8 million park bond. So now that we know what that number is, I'm working with EDSA to rework that project into two phases. So they'll be bringing that back to council with a phasing solution for how to move forward on that. New beach toters and beach restroom upgrades that has been in process over the last 9 months. We have about 50% of the items purchased, and some are here, and they're assembling them, and then we put them out as we get assembled. But those are all coming. Broadband solutions, that's underway. It's been spearheaded by Brett with the chamber and the mayor. So we've been working on that for about 9 months now. It's a learning curve. Citywide lighting and lighting on Highway 361. Need to get a little bit more, throw a little bit more effort at that one. That one's kind of we have a city working group, the mayor and I, Todd Hunter's office, TxDOT, AEP. So trying to figure out the lighting solution on the city's portion of 361. Urgent care facilities. We did not take any action on that. Hotel Conference Center. We didn't take any action moving forward with a third-party version, but we did move forward with the city's improvements of the Civic Center, which included, a grand hallway, breakout rooms, additional restrooms, and an additional caterer's kitchen prep area, and then upgrades to the Civic Center, ceiling, walls, flooring, stage. So that's all underway. Maintaining the permit on the 67 acres that was completed in April. So we have a brand new permit in hand. Good until 2030. Lowering speed limits from Beach Access Road 1A to Avenue G. No, we did not take any action on that. And then citywide speed limit signage. The only action we took on that was just the street crews doing surveys on streets to see where missing signs were. So we've put some up, but probably needs to do more, needs more action.
Okay, anybody have any questions on any of those projects, any other follow-up? All right, hearing none, we'll go to item 4, which is the fiscal 2025-2026 budget funding request from outside agencies. The first is item D, or our recommendations from the funding request from the Hotel Motel Occupancy Tax Advisory Board.
Yeah,
So we had a meeting with the HOT board, and there were only 3 that turned in requests before the deadline. One was the community theater. They requested 100,000, and the funding committee approved recommended to y'all 100,000. Everything that was turned in an application, the committee recommended 100% for y'all to look at. From Papa, they had 3 different applications. The Preserve at Farley Boatworks Maritime Sport Fishing Museum, they requested 87,779. The Historical Museum and Mercer Market, 114,039.50, and Farley Boatworks, 103,181. for a total request of 305,000. And then we got a new one this year from Port Aransas ISD for sports tournaments, specifically, I believe the Marlin Classic.
Yeah, it's a bunch of
It's a
them.
bunch of them, and they might bring in, or planning on bringing in. They requested 10,000 and the hot board, recommended to y'all 10,000. So the total request of those three organizations is 415,000. So, and of course, your next item, I think,
Is the art center.
is the Art Center, which did not get it in, but they're gonna do a presentation to y'all. They're requesting another 100. So with those four, potential would be 515,000 from your hotel motel special fund.
What is going on with the Farming Works? And this may not be the venue to know. I can buy some.
Which one? The actual place where they build the,
The brick and mortar building, which seems like.
the venue.
Yes, it seems.
Yeah, the museum in Mercer Mark, isn't that what that one's called?
That's separate venue.
Oh, it's the Maritime and Sport Fishing Museum. That one.
It seems like it's been going on.
It still doesn't have a C of O. Just, yeah.
What their holdup is. I felt like, didn't we give them money back to finish it?
Yeah.
Twice.
That's why I'm bringing the question up.
Yeah.
I was just watching from the outside. It seems like
Yeah.
it's going on forever, but now they're coming.
Yeah, I mean, we don't monitor it. Yeah, it's just, no, don't know what their struggle is.
Hmm.
Do you know?
Waiting on final inspections to be called
For a while.
for a long time.
Okay.
First permitted in 21, re-permitted in 24.
Which are probably dead again.
Just the shell, 24 was the interior build out. They're not dead.
Oh, they're not dead.
No. No, we've had enough time.
So they're slowly-
Just there.
Like I said, the question, does this get them finished or?
So today, just so you know, we won't necessarily commit or allocate to any of these dollars. This will only be the presentation, the discussion, because we won't really know how much money we have, particularly in the general fund dollars, which is a huge amount, until probably third week of July. Usually, Darla, you kind of
Yeah.
get the final.
It's when the appraisal district is supposed to give us the certified roll. But they don't always give me all the factors needed to calculate a tax rate. That usually comes around the 28th, by the 28th. Sometimes they'll have it ready, it just depends.
So the purpose of this meeting truly is to hear the wish list, right?
Got it.
It's like when your kids give you the Christmas lists, you kind of put
Yeah.
everything on there. So we are the first look at the Christmas wish list
From everyone.
from everybody,
Departments.
outside
Outsiders.
people.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
I want this, I want this, I want
Yeah,
this.
I want everything.
So I have time to go down the rabbit hole.
And then you're gonna have
Yeah.
lots of time to go down the rabbit hole. But the point of today's meeting is that if there are things on here, and as we go through these individual discussion items, if it is not a direction that council wants to move forward in, right? If we all look at something and go, well, I don't think we should mess with that, then that's a perfect time to tell staff, don't even put that into the budget. Don't waste our time. So I don't, funding from these groups, we can hear it, we can listen to it. And then if we say, you know what, I don't think you should give, XYZ money at all, they won't put it in. But there is time to go down that rabbit hole, because what's going to happen is they'll start building a budget based on what we think we want to consider. And then the cuts begin. Because you can't possibly get everything in. I mean,
But I try to
Without-
listen to y'all's consensus to know, do I put that in? Do I not put that in?
so those are very valid questions. And I think that you'll have time, and we'll all have time to ask, some of these different groups, kind of what the status is, and then go on, to other projects and see what we want to do. But
Does this get you finished or? are we
Yes.
Doing this again?
that's exactly right.
On
That's
July
exactly.
22nd, when we get those amounts, and I know there was a moment in time this past year where we were still waiting to collect some in regards to what we're supposed to get. Did we get everything we?
I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
Oh, I thought. what
You mean like the protest stuff or?
Yes. yes.
It'll always have some under protest.
So there's.
It'll always have, but they give you factors to be able to calculate your rate.
But on average, on a protest, do we ever get any of that?
Yes. Yes, they end up settling with the appraisal district at what their rate is, their appraisal value is gonna be. If they don't, they end up in court.
People have to pay their tax.
Right.
And that's really, I mean, you can protest, but you still have to pay the tax. And so what happens is you get a rebate. I mean, you probably know right when you deal with it. So I think when we get our rolls, it's based on assuming that they pay the tax bill. And I mean, that's for them to settle out. So
And we've never had a problem with anyone, like, if you remember 2 or 3 years ago, there was the, both, I think it was Flint Hills and
Mhm.
Valero
yeah.
had a big deal with their values and they were getting pulled out of the roll completely, and it was killing school districts. TM
County.
thought they were
Oh,
the county,
Yeah.
and TM school district wasn't sure if they were gonna be able to have anything, but we don't have industry like that would cause us problems.
huge amounts, yeah.
This committee, didn't Lawrence like run that or was part of that? So he's gone, who is it now?
I have some recommendations on next year.
But I don't get a vote.
Yeah, they vote.
Tried to speak.
We were both there.
Yeah, I think I mean, and the mayor and I have talked about it. Probably the easier thing to do is for you guys to just say, come up with a set pot. Give it to our friends at the chamber and be done with it and let them dole it out.
I mean, honestly,
Brett's already said yes. I mean, here's the thing, the board, we thought at first when we created them that maybe they would do a little trimming.
Obviously.
It's almost just like, and I really appreciate the work they did because they all put in a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
it is-
So I appreciate them, but it didn't accomplish what we thought. We thought that it would be a much more proactive and trimming board, but it wasn't a whole lot of trimming going on.
there still needs to be a process because I think an application process is important. But at the end of the day, these tax dollars are truly meant to go to help promote those particular organizations who receive them. And I think it would be better served of our time and HAT tax board's time for that to be oversaw by the Chamber CVB board, because they're doing a lot of the work that these people are requesting funds for anyway. They're partnering with all these organizations to begin with to help them with a lot of their promotion and design. So they probably know better than we do how much and where the tax dollars get sent.
Yeah, I mean, the whole goal of it is to bring in
Heads and beds.
heads in bed, so it's a better fit.
Next year.
He's smiling.
Next year, or you don't get the 0.25%.
This time is coming up. All right, so we're going to move on to item E, which is a presentation from the Port Aransas Arts Center requesting funds for the 2025-26 budget year. Mr. Morris, you may come up to the front and make your presentation, sir.
I greatly appreciate being invited to come and do it. We dropped the ball on it. We spent a lot of effort throughout the year getting ready for our fundraising ball that was totally for scholarships, and that was done all with fundraising. And $20,000 went to scholarships with the kids. So that we were happy about that. And, we're a staff of nobody, and we got, one full-time and two less than half-time, and then the board, that do what we can do. And I take full responsibility that application didn't get in. I was, and I didn't know that there'd been staffing changes, that Lawrence was gone. So I wasn't, we had great communications going into that first year. And it just, because there wasn't that poke in the eye, oh, hey, you can get stuff, we didn't. So I'm here today, hat in hand, to request that you guys do consider it, and maybe weigh in that the, regardless of the process, that the committee that reviewed all the other applications went with the number that was submitted. Our number was consistent with the others and it was consistent what we requested for last year. I think importantly, our numbers of visitors has, just like the city, has significantly increased year over year. And I put a lot of that on Brett's advertising team, through Madden. Cause, he can show data that's showing our ads are getting in front of people. I can't do that. I can't do a Facebook ad and hope it gets in front. I tried to do it with my business, other business myself. It doesn't work. You got to have that professional service if you're going to advertise. And if anybody uses social media, they see 4-day ads. We saw Wendy, saw the mayor on one of ours, so. So thank you for your support.
Yeah, sure.
So, I mentioned how many people visited, how it's been going up. We had almost 17,000 visitors last year. Based on we've always kept records of where people came way before we were told to do it. So we had some history, but typically somewhere in the range of 90% of our visitors are coming from out of town. Out of town, and when we say out of town, we're saying outside of the major metro. And I mean, if you're from Beeville, you're local, but obviously when we look at who's coming in, those numbers don't look any different than what that Brett sees as far as percentages from this city or that city. So I think our targeting is working. So that advertising piece is huge. But also we're asking for 25. But our advertising budget for the year is 40,000. Salaries, we're asking for 75,000. We're open 6 days a week and, hosting monthly events, hosting kids camps that we have provided. And that's truly a benefit to the kids here. I mean, those things are full. We got 4 of them, and that's through, generous benefactors that have helped us over the years. So if we can, get somewhere in that range, we can continue doing the things that we're doing. I mean, our only way to save money is close the doors and send people home that work. I mean, that's literally, we've gotten rid of, we did a big reduction in cleaning services. So the staff's doing, more day-to-day cleaning while also greeting 17,000 visitors a year, and many days there's just one person on. So it's not like they can be doing, all the stuff that happens. And it's like, you guys all have a lot of your own businesses and, all the moving parts, and we're that same thing. We're just lucky to be able to contribute back to the city and provide, I think, an important outlet for that, I mean, we see people coming to God, we're so tired of being at the beach, it's too hot, and coming in and then finding out, a lot of those turn into collectors. We have some collectors. If it wasn't for them, we'd be struggling. I mean, there's some people that really, really take care of the arts, and the support from the city is key to that. I think it's an element of it that any modern, vibrant city wants to have arts, and the theater and museums and all those things that hot tax is able to fund. So we're just asking for your help again this year. Said hat in hand with the application isn't turned in on time. No significant changes from the ask or the drivers are the same, the requirements are the same. So open to questions if anybody has questions.
I have a question real quick for you, John. In the application regarding the salaries,
Yeah.
it said in the letter that, the front page letter, that the total the total payroll cost was 137,000. But in the spreadsheet in the back, it said a 110,610. So I just wanted to clarify the difference between the two.
And then I didn't do the math on on that, and I may
Okay.
have missed it myself. Probably the number in the back is probably right.
Because you mentioned you had one full-time, is it like your full-time museum director or something? Okay.
right.
And then the 2 part-time are just other staffers who come in and
Yeah, go
help.
with that. I'm looking at that. Yeah, go with that. 'cause that's
The
what
last
found.
page. Okay.
That was final number.
And as far as your other sources of revenue, obviously it's not a museum. You don't charge to attend. So what what are the other ways that the museum, other than fundraisers, right? I get that. Do you earn income?
Art sales are.
There's a
what
commission
keep-
piece or something?
Yeah.
Okay,
So, and when we, when we sell a piece of art, the artist is getting 60%, we're getting 40%, and that's consistent kind of with
Other
all the other
galleries. or-
galleries,
okay.
whether a nonprofit or a for-profit gallery. You know, we obviously have some significant costs. I mean, we've got a note.
Sure.
We're hoping to get out of that within the next 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Mark Rossi.
Yeah,
That was a big chunk of it, and he didn't put any stipulations that it was, it was for the art center and facilities, So if we can get out from under the note, that's gonna help us considerably. And, we're working towards getting once we got the note eliminated, then we're gonna go hard over for that phase 2
okay.
expansion.
But that money's already been accounted for from a
Yeah.
donation?
Yeah.
Okay,
And then, and then we have regular every month. The
First
exhibit
Fridays, yeah.
is, it's $1,000 to sponsor it.
Mm.
And that makes a big difference. I mean, we're able to put on that event and put on a quality event and provide music and, a little bit of food and all that good stuff. We started just recently what do we call them? Michelle came up with it, but it's another exhibit, a quarterly 3. So 3 of our artists get a 3-month show, and to sponsor that, it's $3,000. And interestingly enough, one of the collectors of one of the artists came in and spent another $10,000 on art after sponsoring it. I mean, he believes in the arts, and he's always coming in, what can we do? And, luckily, those people exist. Most of them are second homeowners, so they're already, indirectly paying into the hot tax and everything else. So that's kind of what we've got a couple grants we're trying to get. And, anybody that's gone after grant money knows it's a heavy lift.
Mhm.
And a big difference between us, say, in Rockport or Corpus, is they have full-time staffs that, labor bill of, I think, Rockport's labor bill was approaching $400,000 a year.
Wow.
That they've got some deep pocket donors. They had Lewis, the old executive director of that. That's his job. He got paid a lot of money to find money.
Mm,
Takes money to, it's that
Mhm.
takes money to find money thing. So we don't have the luxury of a staff, 6 or 7 paid people that are there every day wearing one hat. We've got staff that are wearing 4 or 5 hats, cleaning bathrooms to selling art to fundraising,
Right,
so that's how we keep it alive.
sure. Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Nope.
Well, I appreciate your time and consideration.
Okay,
Hope things can work out. Hope we keep being 6 days a week and get another 18 or 20,000 people in there this year.
okay. Thank you for submitting.
Thanks,
We
man. I
appreciate it.
needed any further, or stick around, it's up to you guys.
No, you're fine. I mean,
Okay.
we heard your presentation and it's,
Okay.
yeah, we'll
Thank
make
you,
the
guys.
decision. So thank you very much, John. I just want, we don't, again, have to set a dollar amount, but because they were outside the process and they did come and make a special presentation to be considered within the budget, I do think we need to give staff direction on whether or not that we would like to consider their applications. That's why they're on here as a separate item. So do y'all have, is that a general consensus to consider them?
Yes.
Okay,
Everybody makes a mistake.
okay. All right, I just want to make sure because that was the process that we told them to do. They should have gone through the hotel motel tax advisory
Application
board application.
process, which is April 1st through the
Right.
close of April.
Yeah,
It's a 30-day window. Is it? Yeah, you're right. Excuse me. It's March. It's all of March.
Next year. Then
So then that puts the.
Get it into
event
practice.
up before. both
Right.
The ISD, the PAG, the Art Center and pop up. Or our pool.
Well, number 515.
Yeah.
total would be
Total.
based on the applications, yeah.
Well, to be determined.
Okay, all right, then we'll move on to item F, presentation from Port Aransas Tourism Bureau and Chamber of Commerce President CEO Brett. You're on, sir.
All right. Well, thank you all for
I've got-
having me today, and most of all, thanks for, investing in tourism promotion, the thing that helps drive our economies here in Port Aransas. If this is a Christmas wish list, maybe I should go like Fredericksburg model and ask for 5/7 of the tax
Yeah.
instead of 3.25, but I won't, since it's been thrown around a lot today. But I do think, I do believe it started in 2017. I think there was a short hiatus before that, and Ann Vaughn had some of the 3.25 as well. So there's a long history, I think, of the 3.25%. Y'all can tell me if I'm wrong because I didn't live here, but I think John stopped it for a little bit and then reinstated.
Yeah.
That's correct. It was given that the 1/4% was given much longer. It was stopped for Harvey and then reinstated. So that's a
Okay.
valid point.
Good. I was just trying to reflect my memory. I
Yeah.
had the minutes before.
It's gonna be
It-
put on hold.
Yeah, we put it on hold and then we gave it back.
Something like it. So, and I also want to thank the city for helping us reel in the fishing capital of Texas along with Todd Hunter's office, but you do have a challenge coin in
They
here.
look good.
And you have a nice sticker in there, so please, thank you all for coming to the cruise that night that we're in town and able to join us. So it was a great thing that, for at least the next 10 years, we'll hang our hats on and continue to promote this area as such a great thing. So, let me make sure I have this working. I do. So kind of what we look at doing, a lot of different things here at the Tourism Bureau Chamber of Commerce. Most of you were at our summit in January, so that annual report is there again for your review. These are kind of some of the things we've been doing since the summit, really. We operate on a calendar fiscal year now to help us kind of align better with the rise and the fall of the hot tax as we look at those big months coming in June and July and August. Those are things that sometimes we didn't get till the fiscal year was just about over. So this helps us kind of maintain a constant flow and expectation and realization of what the year really looks like. So we are, of course, looking to create that Port A lifestyle brand. We continue to evolve into a lifestyle brand, which I think is going to do wonders for this community. We're continuing to grow brand awareness in the key markets. Those are all listed there for you, but really seeing growth in the DFW market. Of course, this year we're seeing some growth in San Antonio again, just due to the proximity, as well as Austin market. The North Austin market continues to shine well for us. And then we continue to look at that off-peak interest and maintain strong occupancy and interest in those off-peak markets, which really is anything outside of Memorial Day through Labor Day for a lot of what we do here. So again, what we focus on most is awareness, consideration, and conversion, the funnel of the travelers. They come and make their decisions. Since the beginning of the year, we've had 25,654,000 paid impressions on Port Aransas throughout the United States and probably beyond. That means we're paying to get it in front of them. It's like, yes. And then we've had paid web traffic, again, paying pay-per-clicks, SEO kind of things that we're doing to get an additional 280,000 visitors to our website. So that is a good thing that we're working on, and kind of the basis of it all. We divided into a number of different campaigns, so you've seen the Salty Stories campaign, for instance, the video series that we do. So far this year, we've had 941,000 video plays, so almost 1 million video plays of those alone, and over 1.2 million impressions on ads that were served up about those. So a lot of folks watching the videos and getting through at least the
Is that total since you guys started or just this year?
That's just this year.
Oh.
So it's definitely an effort that we push
You
forward.
keep all of them up
Yeah, they're all up.
year after
historically.
year,
There's
so
a-
they're kind of building.
There's a library of them.
Yeah.
I think Kelly and Beth was our first year along with the Wintons and I forget who else, but this year was Linda from Venetian, as well as the music scene with the Dune Billies and John Elijah, and then also Friends of Vita Kanya Rum. Thank you. Phew, a lot of things to remember. But this other one is the Verbo thing, conversion. So this is just a small slice of some of the advertising we do that really shows effect. This one actually gives us our return on ad spend, which we love to see, right? So for the money we invest, we had gotten back $3.6 million in booking revenue to Port A with 6,466 room nights. So that's a $97 return on ad spend for that, which is tremendous. 1 in 7 is traditional. So anything better than that, I mean, gold star on that one. So we continue to stay with Verbo on some of those that really show us, because a lot of the things we do are not showing us. We're just doing brand awareness and lift in general in markets. So it's different kind of stuff. Weeping Crane, you know, that's a big thing for us. We had a little bit of a doozy this year with the weather and then also the loss of Lisa at the right time, you know, poor, horrible time. So it did do well, despite all of that. And we had a, not necessarily a record year, but a very sustainable and solid year. So those are some of the metrics there. Again, we support Sandfest and all of their efforts this spring. So that was some of the results of those. And then our pillar markets that we really look at for birding, fishing, and deep sea roundup. We're doing a special initiative with them this year, actually currently running as we get closer to that next, I guess, 2 weeks from now. So just some additional things there in the markets that we're looking at. These are current ads that are running right now. There's a number, a lot more than that. There's some on the Respect Your Island Home Initiative. There's some just on general awareness, and then some a little bit more detailed. And that's a lot of what we've done this past year is grow our activation marketing. So in-person engagement in the key markets we want to be in. So a lot of that's taken place in Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Sure.
So we'll continue our partnership strong with the Cowboys. You'll see one of the alumni there. I think he's at bronze, high-fiving a fan who was there. So did a sandcastle building with the family earlier this year through a sweepstakes we ran with the Cowboys. But a lot of things going on in Arlington, Frisco, and DFW, October, November, May, August, September. Those are all the months we were up there promoting those.
Someone sent me a picture of the Dallas airport.
Did I send you that?
No, Michael Dorson.
Oh, well,
It's just like a
banner and
yeah,
good.
inside.
Yeah,
I have a lot of family in Dallas and they see this stuff all the time.
well, that's good. It's working. And when the percentages are showing that it's working too, the growth market of that is good. And we're going after Dallas because they're further, they spend more money and they stay longer. So we like that.
So I don't know if you know this. There's a neighborhood area called Preston Hollow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Dallas.
Did you know that y'all were on the front of the Cinnamon Shores is on the front of the
Okay.
magazine? My sister lives in that neighborhood and she got it and yeah,
And I
our
will-
attorneys are.
I will give credit to our
That's a nice one. Yeah.
our partners in, you know,
George Bush lived
tourist
there.
promotion are the
Mhm.
resort planned communities and like that. So Cinnamon Shore is doing some effort up there. They sponsored the Valero Open up there, as well as Palmia doing a lot of promotion as well. So these bigger corporations are as well, you know, helping supplement a lot of what we're doing, and together we're making a mighty force that honestly rivals any Texas DMO that I know of. So we're up there with the big boys, honestly. So
Yeah,
it's
that was the
great
July
together.
25 issue, so.
Okay.
People-
Okay, so in Stonebriar, this is a nice little mall in Frisco, and we thought, it'd be kind of fun. We'll do an adoption program. It was the weekend of Easter, it was Saturday after Good Friday, so I don't know what the Saturday is on Easter weekend, but that one, and we were there for a few hours. You know, everybody finishing their Easter shopping and getting their pictures with the Easter Bunny, and they got a Easter basket with Flynn, Dottie, or Riley in it, our little stuffed plushies and ambassadors, and we had over 800 adoptions take place during that time. So they had to come in and do an activity, fill out a Build-A-Bear.
Drop their email address and phone
Not their
number,
email address. and
credit card.
So, and no more than 750 families participate. I think it was an adoption every 26.8 seconds or something crazy like that. I mean, minutes.
That live in Plano went to that.
Yeah, it's
So,
pretty remarkable.
There was a lot of people there.
Yeah, it was a good thing. So we're gonna, and of course, then all the mall advertising that went on as well. We were up staircases, we were at the Jumbotron with the fishing. So a lot of great things that stay throughout the month. And we do similar things at the Domain. We've done that for a few years. We just got through with one in May where we kind of took over a street and made it a Port Aransas experience with our attributes about the Message in the Bible campaign, and find your beach in Port Aransas. Anything from the serenity of Port Aransas to the adventure that we offer. All of those things celebrated there. We just wrapped up an activation, which is a new thing we're entering into with beach reads. So we're kind of partnering with book people, and we held an event and did a collaboration with a national New York Times bestseller, Mary Kay Andrews. Actually had one-on-one interviews with her. Mindy from our office interviewed her in a Q&A format at Book People to talk about, you know, beach reads. And then she, of course, is from Georgia. I don't know if you know about her or not, but she owns condos in Tybee Island. And there's some great ties to Port Aransas, and the books themselves are part of a larger campaign to celebrate beach reads. And there's a whole market there of highly female of motivated travelers who want to come and be a part of a, see themselves reading a book on a beach. We have tips for that. It's not as all glamorous as you think. There are tips. Okay. All right, flying through these. And then we had kind of currently running some of our Winter Texan campaigns. We did just sign with the Rio Grande Valley and doing some of their Winter Texan fairs. So we're going to be partnering with, I think, Beachgate and a few others to kind of go down and have a presence there to tell folks to come for the month or 3 during that. So some of the things we do above and beyond tourism promotion, with that additional 0.25% that is an eligible allocation of that, and also with some of our private sector funds we get through partnerships and sponsorships. We are working directly with Nicole and Colleen on finishing the wayfinding project. Mindy from our office has been wonderful in helping guide that with them and making sure that we have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. That's how you say that. The public Wi-Fi pilot project has been a whirlwind, but it is hopefully still running. We run into a little bit of an issue, a delay on their end, but we are continuing to plow forward and looking for opportunities. It is live at Lantana at the beach. So around the pier, you can get the free Wi-Fi, and then a little bit downtown, Old Town by Sip Yard. And that actually your half a Sip Yard is very well lit with a free Wi-Fi as well. We did a workforce study initiative last fall, focusing on transit and housing. We are looking at a lot of those issues as well. We meet monthly as an EDC and Economic Development Committee, or Envision Port Aransas Committee, to kind of look at some of these items and really start pecking away at them. So Wendy and David are on that, along with several members of our board, to toss that around, as well as the consultants like from the Wi-Fi and all. So those are good. We have a regenerative tourism conference. So we're excited about all of our Respect Our Island Home and sustainability initiatives. That is going to be October 21st through 23rd, primarily hosted at UTMSI. And we're hoping to get about 50 people. So we're keeping it kind of small based on limitations of what we have, as well as kind of a kickoff. And we're going to be inviting other Gulf side communities from Louisiana, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and then Texas. I got them all. So that'll be kicking off here soon with a save the date going out. We are, I think, partnering with Cinnamon Shore on this. So we're waiting on final details to get their room blocks and do some sort of group activities with them there. So this is one that we're co-sponsoring with Madden. So Madden Media, our advertising agency of record, is actually footing the bill for it, not as part of our contract, but as part of their love for Port Aransas, and also love to be in the space of regenerative tourism. So it's co-hosted by us both this year, but it's meant to be a long-lasting legacy that Port Aransas gets to carry on for years to come. So how are we doing? Let's just look quickly at our lodging performance. And when we do that, for the most part, we're talking short-term rentals, because as Nicole and David know, I mean, you have 3,175 today. I don't know what the right number is, but it's a good number, which is the majority of our hot tax collection. So when you look at us through, let's say that's January through the end of, let's say August, let me see my fine-tuned classes. I think I got us to almost Labor Day, but it didn't get on Labor Day. 27. So not including Labor Day, but pretty darn close to it. We're up. This is just revenues, total revenues. This would include your things like any taxes on resort fees and cleaning fees and all of that at a 13.09% increase. Now, will that translate into what Darla receives? We don't know exactly, but it's pretty close sometimes. So I feel pretty confident that it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark. You'll probably see double-digit increases. So last year, we were forecasting 5.1 million or 10 point something million as a city. And then, of course, we got hit with the storm last year and a number of other things in the economy to where now we went back a little bit this year. We're at what, 9.0 or something. I don't really remember what the total hot tax estimate is, but
That's over.
I think you'll end up this year. I sure hope you do. Those are all indicating that, and Darla will know more as she gets this next month's receipts in, because they should be continuing to grow with.
Last month was good.
And Brett, on this report, it's actual data from January till what's kind of the cutoff. I know you've projected through.
There's a date on there that
It says August, but I mean, obviously that's not actual data yet because we're in July 1st, but
So the forecast, what's been booked to this date is that date that the report was run. So
Okay.
So it's kind of forecast. So
June 12th. Okay, I see.
Yes, those
There's
are
an
all,
August 25th reservation.
yes.
Okay.
So the date is as of 6/14, so June 14th, I ran this report.
So for you business owners,
No, it's not right.
August 6th, it's gonna change a lot. It's gonna go way, it's
The week
Yeah.
before school goes.
It's-
dead week.
dead week, you can tell, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna happen.
Early, right? I mean, school's the
13th.
12th here, yeah.
Here, but like, I just had family in town and they start August
It's early.
a week earlier.
a week earlier.
Wearing my school board hat, we're happy with early start dates. Wearing the tourism hat, we're not.
No,
But-
exactly.
We all live together.
I just finished my bookwork for June last night and it beat
It's good.
last year's.
I mean, the summer's gonna be great. Knock on wood. At least we're gonna get through July 4th without any major storms. So
It'll be a great week.
Busy,
Thank-
Yeah,
Be
enjoy
great.
your week this week,
That's-
folks, because remember what we did last year.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So let me keep this going. Then we wanted to compare our other markets, right? Because they're all after us. They're all, we're after them, in a very competitive way. So the dollars you give us truly do help us combat and win, conquer and be victorious in beating some of our comp sets. And for the most part, we're looking at South Padre and Galveston as who our choices are for beach. We know that some are going to Destin and those Orange Beach Alabama areas, Gulf Shores, so we do watch those comp markets as well. So South Padre Island, for instance, they are trending, same time we run this report, about 7.4% up. That's good for them. I mean, that's not a bad year. So they're doing pretty well. But then our friends in Galveston are not doing well. They are almost 10% down with a loss of $4 million in hot.
Whoa.
So those projections.
What's up with that?
They're gonna be.
Okay, but I want to clarify something. This report is only for STRs,
It is.
right? So it's interesting when you look at our revenue dollars in STR income versus South Padre and Galveston.
Correct.
South Padre is, they're maxing out at 1.5 million and Galveston 2.5 million. So we clearly
25
have
million.
a dominating amount of STRs versus South Padre, which I would guess is mostly hotel
They have more
and
hotels.
condos, just
Yes.
based on their high rise,
Yes.
market. And then Galveston, I don't know what their mix is. It's
They
probably a
have-
lot of hotels.
That's
larger
fine, continuous.
hotels.
You
Yeah.
can see the total revenue numbers, so 25 million. Now, we are the largest, right? So we are gonna surpass 100 million in hot tax, not hot tax sales, but short-term rental bookings this year.
Right.
Which I think might be a record. I need to go back and look at some of my years, but it's gonna be one of the strongest
Gotta
years
be.
we've seen. So we're excited about that. But yes, to your point, this is not tracking the Hampton Inns and the,
Which we don't have a lot of those in general,
we
but
don't, but South Padre does.
they do.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah.
They have a lot of hotel.
So we're kind of comparing apples to apples here, but not.
No, sure.
So-
And I mean, I'm sure it's similar to other trends. I mean, they're probably all on the same.
And we'll be able to hold the
trajectory, yeah.
final tax reports at the end of the year, but this is one that I have access to that gives us kind of a crystal ball. And we are hearing from Galveston. Galveston is a mess right now in terms of administration and what they're going through. They've had a huge uproar within their park board. It's just messy.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
There's a lot
So-
of problems, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going and we have the better beach, so.
We
good.
do.
And we have the place where families can come, and I think that's our biggest selling point with the multi-generational family travel, the big homes that support that, and then the salty vibes that we present, so. Galveston, yeah, I did all that, so yeah. Some of the things we also have done, we did work, some of the things I want you to take note of is, as the Hotel Lydia comes on board, maybe this weekend, if the fire chief and elevator inspectors get together. So we might have a new hotel open this weekend. But that area, along with as the animal shelter may move, that whole parking area needs to be addressed sooner than later. It is it's just a hodgepodge of, it was never redone after Harvey, so it's a hodgepodge of parking spaces that kind of just need to be reformatted a little bit. So that's one thing to kind of keep on our radar of looking at when we're pouring concrete. Certainly have a vision for it, but it wouldn't take much. Just some clean sweep of it would be great. And then we did work a lot with the chief at spring break. So we did actually have some lodging partner meetings, come together and talk about their concerns about spring break and things we want to see. And we've shared with that with him as well as the mayor and the folks. And just want to see some continued evolution to keep this the premier family beach destination, but we had a large percentage of our property management companies participating and anxious to see an improved spring break in 2026. So, questions?
Do you think our total revenue everybody gets is over 100 million or higher than that? For a 12-month period,
Or how it's short-term rental, it's gonna be over 100.
over 100.
I mean, it's, you could see it there at, I think it was at 80 or 90 right
Yeah.
there, and that did not include the last.
Because if we're bringing
year.
in 10 million in taxes a year, is that a correct number ish?
Mhm.
Well, 100 million,
No,
7
10 million in taxes. hot
Right.
Tax.
right, $100 million worth of
Seven.
revenue is 7 million, so it's more than that.
So it's about 142 million in STR and hotel revenue at the top, and then you get 7% on our, to get to our 10.
So this does, none of those numbers include any hotels.
Okay. I don't think we're doing 45 million in hotel sales and few hotels we have, that's a lot.
It's condos,
Some of it's-
condos. It'd be condos and hotels.
So you didn't include condos in
They
it.
run with different systems. So I do have those reports. I get them after the fact, so I get them like a month after the actual.
Condos don't register as an individual STR.
They do.
Per unit.
They do.
Oh, okay.
It's just how it's classified in the
Like-
booking system, so the companies that track it.
Thank you for the coin.
Yeah, Joe.
Who designed it?
We did that in-house and then DEA helped us find a vendor to actually.
Is that a little poke at Rockport?
That's a, where the redfish cat.
It's a reminder that we cover all fishes.
Even though Rockport's the redfish capital?
So when we,
Nice little.
Maybe
I was just on the committee.
Have they announced that yet? Or we do most of the, it's all good, but I do thank you all for that. And then definitely your partners. And if you have ideas or thoughts and however we can help the city, we're happy to do that. So.
y'all
Sir.
continue to do a great job. Thank you very much.
And
Okay,
I need to correct, I apologize, I did a calculation on real stuff versus just on the fly. The 1/4% is 362,000.
okay. Oh, thank you. That
Yeah.
makes a little more.
Yeah, yeah.
Gonna put up the breakfast food. Does anybody want anything before we put it up?
What was it, Darla?
No,
362.
Okay, thanks.
you.
you know,
Great.
I will fix some great for.
Pardon?
Since 2017.
Well, we even did it before then.
We did it before then. We took a little hiatus because the conventions, originally was for the
That's what
convention
it
center project. And that was put on hold with Harvey and didn't know where it was going, so it was put on.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
We're gonna move on to capital priorities by city council. I anticipate just for you guys that we will probably get through all of the capital priorities by council before we get to the departments. So I'm anticipating that we take a break for lunch, maybe right before the department discussion. If we get through faster, then we'll keep rolling. But maybe we'll take another just physical break after we get through these capital priorities. Unless somehow we get into some really long discussions about all of them. So
5 minutes right now.
you may, if you would like 5 minutes right now, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah.
Be cool. Not in here early. Mayor, do you need anything else up there?
I'm okay, thank you.
Nothing like a good old summer cold.
Oh, my gosh, well. Yeah, something. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Right in there, that crease somewhere. Send that to me. Okay.
Nicole,
We were supposed to do a walkthrough looking at the day at 10, so I'm not. I'll send this to them. We just found that the other day. The things about ours because they have for a lot.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Sorry about the key thing. The batteries went out in my truck like 15 minutes before the meeting. And so I ran to the auto parts store, bought 2 batteries that were in it, Uncle Vic being Uncle Vic, and stay in my shop, I'll fix it. So he gave me his F550 flatbed and he left Mike with my truck.
You're like, I need to get it.
And then, so he was like, hey, put the keys outside so I can come get my truck.
No, that's funny.
But that was really nice of him. I called the auto parts store. They were waiting at the door with the batteries, throw them in.
Good old Port Aransas.
Yes, came through.
I might be concerned.
Going on with you? Need a shot? And even better.
Yeah, dude, it's called airplane.
Yep.
When you spend all day in an airport, oh,
Yeah, it's happened. My wife gets sick 100% of the time when we travel.
I never get sick, and I'm not sick. It's just I've maybe ingested 6,000 pounds of dust and pollen and other people's stuff. You know, I mean, even though you're like in your space, you know, you're like, I just gotta get off this thing. We went to Florida last week to our house, and I don't care. All the airlines are horrible. It never works out. I mean, we got them at 2:00 in the morning on Sunday. It's just, you intend to be like, I'm in and out, it's gonna be great. And then you get home, you're like, I just spent 12 hours in the airport,
It's ridiculous. I mean, one of the easiest things we do is we always go to easily, even if you get that Southwest direct flight.
You're like, I'd get there in 6 hours.
Somehow,
No.
you're there all day.
All day. Yeah, I mean, got all the way on the plane, sat in my seat, buckled in, did all the checks, everything was great. And they're like, we have a mechanical problem, everybody else. You're like, oh.
Yeah, then you get back on again, our polish is.
Yeah. Yeah, Nicole, I remember.
Okay.
I won't come and sit on top of you, but,
This up last night for me. Don't know, this is how it holds.
is that like a 3D thing?
Yeah, he's got.
Who did that?
My brother. He's great.
What's that? Is it a phone holder?
It's a business card over here. You have one.
Oh, it's a gun?
Yeah, it's like over.
I see it now.
But I saw him out there in the lobby, he was something in my truck, so I was like, but I mean, I was like, he has got so good.
Well, didn't he make those little octopus or different things where they were moving? Those were cute.
They're
Those were cool.
Like.
Yeah. Well, we see how it is in ours. You can actually make them. Yeah.
If I don't have it, I'm gonna.
Well, he bought it. He really bought the nice one.
All night.
They're a city girl.
No, they're not. Well, the party is the cheapest program.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. My sister texted me. She said, is that our magazine? And it said, I recognized it right away.
That Preston Hollow is nice. That's where George Bush is.
Yeah. Oh, they've been there.
I mean, they live in like crazy.
Yeah, they've been there, they've been there for a long time, since 90.
What street they live on?
They're at the corner of Inwood and Meadowcrest.
Oh, so cute. I know. Oh, he does.
How's he doing? What's his name?
Barry.
Now, did she go into labor or did?
Yeah, 8 weeks early.
I knew it was early, 8 weeks. It's size with 8 weeks early.
For 8 weeks early. Yeah.
8 weeks. Mhm.
Full term with them.
Yeah.
Sammy, I go, yeah, we want to see. He has
Yeah.
to be out there. There's so
Yeah.
many-
She's so tiny.
How much did that?
Well, that happened.
Okay, everything's good.
Yeah.
That happened
Well,
with
that's
lots of
just-
baby doors, so.
No, they won't let him
And
out
so we
too.
just. So they said, we're gonna take her, she was just a little.
Yeah, but you gotta get.
But she wasn't that.
Oxygen and all that stuff.
I forgot Chuck told me that.
That's a good hope.
Emma's still good?
Yeah,
we got
last night, I was taking her, not trying to call her.
Down on her kneecap yesterday.
Said that
and
they got-
Looks like it's been
Ah,
there.
his
It's
own
okay.
clothes on.
God dang.
Yeah, let you.
Nightmare. Yeah, could have been worse, I guess, huh?
Look at her hand though on how.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
Kelly.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for sending me. You got a copy? Thanks for doing that. I could never do that.
We're gonna stay spontaneous.
So she got released Sunday. Brother-in-law
Go
Chris
through stuff.
Thompson.
Mhm.
His parents happened
Okay.
It's
Oh, great.
Cause that's a haul from here.
I
It's
know,
a
it's
good
like-
45 minutes. It's tough,
You got a cold with it?
but being there close, that's good. Oh, yeah.
Really bad allergies from, I mean, back and forth.
Exactly.
On planes.
Blame it on
But they
us.
give them 24-hour access, right?
It is a Sahara.
There could be, I mean, I just think change of environments and all that.
Probably so. I go to San Antonio, it only takes a few hours.
Allergic to there's asbestos on the civic center.
That's nice.
There's black hole at my desk right here.
My nephew had a twin, well, he had twins. Different.
Okay, is everybody back?
They
All
had these chickens.
right, we're gonna come back into capital priorities by city council. So item G, discussion on increase to the beach parking permit cost. All right,
Yes.
David. You want me to,
Darla.
Darla, David.
So we have been charging $12 for beach parking permits since 2004. We first went into the beach parking interlocal agreement. It was 2002 and it was $6. And we went up to $12 21 years ago. And it has remained that you get $12 for a full year. Of course, City of Corpus is definitely interested in raising the rate. And I think Nueces County is also interested in raising it. And this is going to require an amendment by all of the entities to the beach management plan. GLO has already been contacted. I think they're going to be fine with it, but it's going to cause us all to do a rewrite. So there's a meeting July 9th to discuss this. And what we want in that also though is to look at the interlocal agreement and redo it to say that what you sell, you keep. Right now, it is a breakdown based on miles of beach. And City of Corpus has more miles of beach than City of Port Aransas just by the layout, but we sell more than they do. I've got Monique working on a breakdown of percentage wise that we sold, but 22 is the last one that we have broken down like this. We sold 56%. So we sold 1.759 million in beach parking permits. But with the breakdown, we only keep 38.5% of the total program sold. So we only kept 1.2 million. And that just doesn't seem fair. So,
Did
we
we
wanna
get that again?
approach that, and we had asked them that, what, 2-3 years ago? But I don't think, so no need to get to count.
That's what I was gonna say. Didn't we look at that in 2022?
Yeah.
He never got back with
He
you or
would not.
anything?
Respond, but they've reached out now and they want to raise the rate. They want to raise the
Yeah.
rate, then it's time for us to.
What are they thinking about?
Have labor
rate
costs
being?
gone up?
Probably
to
20.
maintain-
That's what I
Have
would
labor
think
costs
too.
gone up to maintain the beach since 2004? Best guess.
I think so, just a tad.
Has equipment that we have to buy to do that.
Quite a bit.
And the trash that needs to be hauled off, have those companies cost more and their staff cost more?
They have.
I would like to increase it.
We have many more people all the way down the beach.
Yeah, so we did talk about this multiple times through multiple years, and in 2022, we did talk about it. I had a conversation with both Judge Scott and the mayor about it, and they were on board, and then it went to the city manager of Corpus, and then it fell dead. And so that's what I told him, I'm putting it back on the agenda because I think it's past time for us to increase it. So I'm glad that everyone's on the same page. So
Oh, yeah.
I think we should definitely move forward. Okay, so yes, Darla was great and set up a meeting and they were eager to meet. So obviously they are ready to do it now. So
So we're meeting July 9th at 4 o'clock with one of the ACMs and a few people with them and we'll see where it goes. But it will be a rewrite, so it'll have to be approved by the GLO, and I don't know how quickly that process can be done.
90 days at the quickest.
So they've already got permits for 2026.
no, we're gonna make
Right
sure
around the
that's-
corner.
Yeah, that's why we're doing it now.
Right, so the GLO has already been contacted and I think they're behind it, so I don't think they'd give a pushback, but
So 21 years, $12, 2004, 3% a year is about 36 cents a year. That'd be an additional $7.56, so that'd be about 19.56. Going from $12 to 19.56, so $20 on the fee.
Let's keep it at 1956.
Yeah. That's gonna go give everybody some.
finance and me.
But it was interesting just looking at that.
Yeah, that's a fair deal.
I think they may be interested in 25, but
Right.
If you have a homestead property, you just get one free one a year.
Mhm.
that would be true for everyone in the county. Because it's a countywide program.
Well, that work, that's in there.
I will tell you, the last time I talked to Mayor Wahardo about it, she was interested in some discount for a veteran. Right now, there's no discount for anybody. Everyone pays the same amount. So I think we need to be prepared for some discussions about that and
There is a disabled veteran can get them.
can get them.
Disabled, can
right.
get them free.
But I think there was
But not for us,
Veteran and
only in Corpus.
they came last week and they're gonna allow us to do it now.
Who came last week?
Parks and Rec.
Oh, Corpus Parks and Rec.
Corpus Parks and
Right.
Rec, because now we have to send them to the Corpus
It's-
Parks and Rec
it's the
building.
process to
and
get
it's
them.
a process just
Right.
to get it. They don't even allow them to do it at City Hall.
It's not double dipping.
But it's-
I'm gonna go to every convenience store and.
right.
Right,
Show
we're,
my card.
Right.
right. It
Right.
has to be with them and we're gonna share a spreadsheet so that we could give them here, but it is only disabled veteran. It's not just a veteran. Right now. Now, I don't know if they're be looking at veteran total.
So nickel a day, right? It's a deal.
Mhm.
And it looks like the participating funding, so like we're talking about maybe splitting the percentages between 84% and 16%. So Port Aransas would, in all the beach parking permits we sell, we get 84%.
Well, yeah,
No.
yeah.
No.
So the
No.
deal with
No,
the-
City of Corpus gets 84% and the county, we get, yeah, no, and
They
it,
get 45.5. Corpus gets 45.5%. We get 38.5. The county gets 16%.
Right, I just.
But I think what you're looking at is
Oh.
Yeah.
is
David's
the
proposal.
the
Yes.
proposals that
Yes.
each entity still gives Nueces County 16%, which is
16%.
what they get.
Right.
So we give them 16% of ours, Corpus gives them 16% of theirs, and so their dollar number doesn't change. So they should sign off on this. The
Yeah,
only thing that's different is
Between us and Corpus.
correct.
right.
correct. Because the county, they don't have an outlet to sell them. They don't sell hardly any throughout the year. They don't have a city hall. They don't have a vendor on the beach. They just don't sell them. They sold 1%. They sold 29,000 in total back in 22. So they just don't have a way to sell them. So David's the proposal that he has is on page 106, highlighted in yellow. And Corpus, you know, if we go up on the permit, their problem was they didn't want the loss of revenue, but if we go up on the permit, they should not have loss of revenue. If we all keep what we sell.
And we should keep it revenue neutral for Corpus.
Can't do our own, right? I mean, I know it's for that.
You technically could if you got into the battle.
The
This-
problem would be,
Generally,
where would you
it's-
delineate, you know, and then, yeah.
Okay, did that.
I think it's easier to keep one for the entire county because of the beach rather than have somebody, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's easier to have one sticker.
They drive past that city limits and then they don't realize they're right past the city limit.
Yeah.
And then my last question, do you hear it for different types of vehicles, like RV is different than?
That's coming up.
Okay, good. Okay,
I wouldn't be opposed, and I don't know how it could be written in there, but to give someone with a homestead property one free annually. But I think that would be a much longer discussion we'd have to have and how that would get rewritten into the law.
You mean just a Port A person? Just a Port A
A
homestead?
Port A
And then
homestead,
we lose
Homestead.
it.
not every single property owner, because I think that gets into too many, but a registered homesteaded, and where they can't go to Stripes and say, I'm homesteaded. They would, same thing with the disabled veterans. They would have to come to City Hall.
We would have to look them up. We'd have to have ID. We'd have to. prove that
Veronica
they
would
are-
look them up in the tax office.
Well,
Yeah, not 900 people, not 1,000
depends
people.
on if you're talking, and then Corpus gets into it and the.
Well,
revenue
but that's
share
for them to
That's
figure out.
the deal.
Right,
That's
it's
for them.
our loss of revenue if we keep what we keep,
Right.
then it's our.
But the majority
If
is
it's revenue
coming
share,
from, the
yeah.
majority is coming from the people who show up every day at the beach that pay, and that's fine. But I think that, yes, if we could write that in and consider that to where, again, they have to come up here, they have to show their residency, homesteaded residency, then they could get their ticket. I mean, excuse me, not their ticket, their parking permit, so they don't get a ticket. They can put it on their golf cart, they can put it on their car, they can put it on whatever.
Maybe we can word it so that the city's buying them one for free.
Great.
Well, if we don't do the revenue share, then yeah.
That goes
They
for the
Right.
beach
They
plan.
wouldn't care that they, Corpus would care if we were still doing the 38.5%, 45.5%, because they lose.
Yeah.
They don't like us giving anything for free because it's part of their money, but if we keep what we keep, then only we lose,
Yeah.
and the county would lose. Yeah, because we wouldn't be giving them a percent.
It's easier if we say we're buying you.
We're giving homesteaders one.
And we end up negative. What the counts
TV show. On right after.
I think it
Yep.
needs to happen.
All right.
Okay, all right. So move on to item H, which is discussion on RV parking on the beach. So again, this is an item I wanted to bring up. I think that I would like to see an increase in parking permit fee for RVs. I know we attempted to increase that and regulate that a little more several years ago, and then we got into a situation where we had to have it didn't meet our coastal management plan. So David, give us the details on how or what we could do to.
So we attempted this,
Pre-Harvey.
when was that? It was pre-Harvey,
Pre-Harvey.
maybe 16. So 16, we implemented a $40.
Yes.
Yeah, $40. We made beach stickers. We did everything. And then we got
Sold
sold them. And then we got turned into the GLO and
No.
we got a cease and desist.
Oh, wow.
So we had to stop the program. So basically it's just like the $20. You'd have to, it would be an amendment to your coastal management plan, subject to, general land office approval.
What was their problem with it before?
It wasn't in our plan.
It wasn't in the plan.
Oh.
We didn't go through the
We weren't
approval.
allowed.
We didn't go through the plan amendment. And we'd have to look at it. I'm not sure what Galveston does. I know Galveston's has a beach park and they charge. So
Stewart Beach.
yeah, Stewart Beach.
Mhm.
And it's a front beach, right?
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if they would
If
take
they have overnight.
issue with it or not, but we can always try.
What are y'all's feelings about that? About not only increasing maybe their fee, but maybe going back to some kind of regulation to where I think when we did before, Nicole, was it like 3 days?
said, I think it was just a one sticker for the year.
Yeah, one sticker for the year, but it's still,
the 3
but the
But the
3
3
days
day-
still stayed in effect.
Right.
For debating it, I know that we talked about a certain dollar amount for a 3-day pass.
Yeah.
For that, like what, every time they came in, it was part of the discussion. obviously.
Maybe part of the discussion, it's not what passed.
No, it's not what
Right,
passed.
Yeah.
That was part of the discussion.
Yeah, and that would be hard to administer. Because then your stickers for them, then in code enforcement, they're like, is this?
Yeah, you want it to be one sticker. So that if it's a pull behind RV, they would have a sticker for the vehicle and then a sticker for the RV.
Yes.
I think that, our permit could come a lot further, so if it was something that was being forced differently, like a day, 3-day pass or something, I think we've got the ability to do that, but I think it would still be simpler to just go with the full year pass for an RV sticker, just like a car.
And let them stay down there however many days they wanted.
No, 3 nights in any.
Okay. Still okay, right.
Did they just move somewhere else?
That's
Oh, yeah.
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 They just
Yeah.
move every 3 days.
Enforcement.
They tried.
That's enforcement. We already have that.
Great, staying on top of. Summer camp.
It's $100 to go to an RV park to stay
Oh, it's more than.
A day?
a night,
No, it's not. I don't think it's 100.
I think it's probably.
80 to
sometimes
100.
it could
Isn't
be
it?
more.
Yeah.
It's 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
When you put the electric and that stuff in there, it's probably more.
So $40 for people that like to weekend a couple times a year, an RV is still very doable. I mean, it's doable.
I think it needs to be more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your golf cart sticker?
Yeah, if it goes to 20.
No, I mean, right now, a person pays out of town person pays $100 to have their golf cart at the beach. So why would,
Times a weekend.
yeah, so why would we charge any less for an RV? It's correct.
But ours would be.
Yeah, it wouldn't be per night. So, I mean, the chances of that person coming down more than once, is, but yeah, I mean, if we make I think it should be as much as a golf cart.
RV lives in, we're in this, plenty. We're getting more, so, there are places where,
And we're not making any more beach, but more people are coming, so eventually you need the room.
A lot of RVs that park on the beach, and I'm sure because of it's the price, and it's easy.
It's almost free.
Yeah, almost. You've been doing it forever though. Yeah.
Stripes.
Well, we used to. No,
They're
I used to
exactly the
camp
same.
out all the time.
Oh,
It was
no,
part of the
would you
fun.
be able to? No.
When I was little.
I will.
Yeah.
I can't say that.
$40 ones, where do they buy them?
There's
They're
not, they're not
non-existent.
existing. Yeah.
They
did it We did it until we were told, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say no, you couldn't buy them at Stripes. We may allow them to. It depends on how many we sell. You have to print quite a few to get them in all the Stripes,
think-
different things. We did them just at City
Yeah.
Hall.
Got to distribute us the same way parking's.
I think I
You
think,
want them to be easy to get out there,
Yes.
so you actually get it,
Because
because
it-
people are gonna show up at 7 o'clock at night. Friday.
If you're in a class A and you're pulling a Jeep, it's
We're gonna.
for the
City Hall
camper
closes at 5.
and the vehicle.
So we think, what do we?
I think that's gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
If you start then telling every Stripes and every souvenir store and everybody, here, these are the camper ones, these are the car ones. I mean, then it's gonna
Clerks
become
get confused.
yeah, then it's gonna be a training issue for the clerks and everybody else. I mean,
And how many we have to print?
So we can get the rest.
Right. The beach vendors.
I think the beach
Beach
vendors and
vendors.
City Hall, I mean, and I think if they pull in at Friday night at 10 o'clock when no one's open and they're not gonna pull into a convenience store and get a beach parking permit either. So if they don't know, which is gonna happen, and they pull in and they set up, then code enforcement's gonna drive by and say, hey, you don't have your sticker. And they're gonna say, oh, I didn't know. And we're gonna say, well, you need to go to the beach vendor or City Hall if it's during the day, during the week, and get your sticker.
It would be nice for the Texans, as much as they're open and as much parking they have, and they're on a beach access road. And they're 24.
I know, but then,
But the beach vendors should be at that.
Yeah, but beach
entrance.
vendors are not there year round. They're only between.
That's true too, that's true.
Certain times.
What do we do? What classification of RV? I mean,
It
it's
would
not
be-
for like a Sprinter van, right?
We
That
have to
someone's-
define that. We
Okay.
instruct staff to define.
Thing you sleep in.
If it's a sleeping vehicle, but people sleep in their trucks.
Yeah, we need to figure that out. It needs to be something, it needs to be the next size up above a Sprinter.
right.
So a class
C.
C,
Mini-
24 feet and greater. What is it?
We just got one, we got one.
They make an app for this. We're just trying to figure out what the easiest way is to get the revenue. I
Sure.
wonder if there's an app or something. Hey, I pulled in, here's my license plate number, I paid my $100 and I'm good.
Yeah, why not?
But-
Figure that out.
I mean, I think we could
Yeah.
definitely, if we were to do something through our permitting system, we could figure out how to get people to.
Why
do
not
that
honk?
online. I can do that
Houston
for it.
Airport looks at my
But
license
Yeah.
plate and I'm
I
done.
mean,
Yeah.
I think for.
You could do honk for RV.
standpoint, it would be easier if they had something on there.
Sure.
Our permitting system, we can have them do it online and they can either come up here and pick it up at PD like they do with their license plates, or they can print it out themselves and just put it on there.
Yeah, I mean,
and
if
it
you're
come with
looking
the QR code and everything where the enforcement guys can scan it.
Have it in their window,
make
yeah.
sure that
Yeah.
If you're looking at something that's different than the beach parking permit, you could definitely go that route.
Yeah.
We could do it with Hawk.
Hawk.
Then Hawk, registers their license plate and that way, it's just like parking at the Pearl and seeing a ton. of-
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy.
Now, would you have to have those at all beach entrances for them to,
Well,
easily
just
put
on
the
the
QR
sign.
code? Or you could just put the QR code on our website once they're informed. I mean, there's ways to work around it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about being able to charge per time versus an annual permit.
That
But I
even
don't know,
better.
what the GLO is gonna
Ooh,
approve
that
on
even
that.
sounds more exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you more money now.
But
Is the consensus $100?
$50.
Yeah.
Cold waters ranges from $105 to $157 a day. Pioneer, they only had their 2023 rates, and they're about $85 a day.
Golf floaters got them in.
So it's about $100.
Yeah,
is-
beachfront RVs. Like 125 to 150. I just looked that one up. Beachfront, or what's the one on 1A? On the beach. Yeah, yeah. 130 to 150.
Everybody's been parking on the beach all these years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
yeah, we don't have the electric.
Yeah, they all have.
I think the key is the $50 per day, but then you have to pay extra to.
But you're also getting 3 days off all day.
Correct. And if, depending on how you do it, 3 days every 2 weeks with 3 weeks, so.
And we offer showers and trash service.
Yes.
They do. And it's waterfront
Restrooms.
view.
Restrooms,
Water.
Ocean.
water, unobstructed view, no one in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at least $100.
And security, we have.
Maybe
police patrol
150.
up and Down.
For 3 days or for,
So
I
it has to
I don't know
be-
what you wanna do here. That's a lot of.
it has to be,
I would do
3
that.
days.
Well, we'd wait for our meeting with the Corpus and then move forward with all of it at the same time.
cause it's all gotta go in this.
No, but their RVs be different. With our coastal. Our RVs would be separate. from the beach
Yeah, it would be-
parking
yeah.
permit.
But we would do it all the same.
Yeah, Corpus has nothing to do with this, but it's gotta go in our coastal management plan. They have
The
their
amendment.
own coastal.
Mm-hmm.
And They're there all the time at my house,
Over the 62 or no camp.
Oh, they don't care.
They're there at Whitecap Beach all the time. Yeah, spend the night.
Okay, so we'll move forward with that one.
Did you get a consensus on the cost?
$100.
$100 for a
year.
3-day But if they did one and if they came 4th of July weekend and got their 3-day permit, are they gonna be able to come back and pay? They have to pay $100 again if they come Labor Day weekend? Cause they gotta re-register with Honk?
Well, I thought we were just doing $100 for your yearly pass.
I know, but really, I mean, you're getting, yeah. I think you could regulate it that way.
Oh, it's fine, but it's for the year.
We have two different conversations.
Yeah.
going on. We have two different.
Yeah,
thought
two
processes.
conversations going.
Oh, I thought we were talking about a yearly pass for $100.
We were talking about the yearly pass, and then when we decided that you could easily do it through QR code, like
Yeah.
a Honk system, when you actually need to register and put the pass in your window, you could do it per state.
Per night?
It's gonna come.
You
to
could do it per
enforcement.
night, you could do it per
It's gonna
stay, you could.
be enforced. And code enforcement doesn't work weekends, so it's the PD.
But that's not true. They
Code
just take it.
Code enforcement.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, every day they're down there.
Then if it's a per night deal, why don't we do like $30 a night, 25 a night?
County's 50, but they have the.
Like 100 per day.
Yeah.
That's a max.
Yeah, but a lot of them are.
Stay for one, stay for three.
Yeah, that's what I think. Stay for one or stay for $300.
That fixes the 3-day limit camping, and because if you go in, you cannot go plug in.
All right, let's do this. Instead of trying to figure
For
this out
another
right now,
14 days.
let staff go digest this and then bring this back with some ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but pretty quickly, so we can get it all in the coastal
Yeah,
management
yeah,
plan, right?
yeah, we'll
So
do
we can
this
have it
fast.
implemented by January.
Yep.
Okay. All right, awesome. We'll move on to item I, which is discussion on taxes for spring break control. This is really just a discussion I've had out of some discussion I've had with both the chief and Brett after the short-term management, property management, spring break task force. I don't know what you want to call that, Brett. I wasn't in the meeting, but I know y'all had a meeting. Chief was there, so Chief can kind of give us an update. But I wanted to have some discussion because if there was something that we wanted to do to support them, I wanted to make sure it was a budgetary item if that's something we needed to. So, Chief, let us know your thoughts. Brett, you feel free to chime in.
Yeah. So
Nicole?
after spring break, we changed up the way we did enforcement down on the beach this year than we had prior years. Mainly dealing with the group that forms up around pole 32 called the pit, for lack of a better phrase. So we took the stance that if you were advertising on social media that they were showing up to have a gathering at pole 32, that they needed to have a small events permit, right? Because if I advertise my wedding or something like that, that I was wanting to do, that's the kind of the standard we would use for that. So that's how we dispersed some of that crowd there, and it seemed to work pretty good. So after that, we had a bunch of house parties. We had all kinds of other stuff that popped up, and we were wanting to see if that was because of the way we were doing enforcement on the beach, if there was something different we could do with them. And that's what facilitated the meeting with the short-term rental companies and to see what their experiences were. And we kind of got an overwhelming response of, yeah, we want more enforcement. You know, we need to keep the strategy going and kind of figure out a strategy to deal with that behavior and how to curb it and how to fix it. And so that's what we've been doing over the since spring break. We've been having meetings with our state partners. We've come up with some really good partnerships with Parks and Wildlife and DPS. They have committed resources. We're gonna try some of the stuff this 4th of July. Last year, we saw a lot of the same kind of stuff that we did during spring break in smaller numbers over the 4th of July weekend. So DPS has committed some significant resources to us. To where they're going to have beach teams, regular law enforcement teams that are going to be on the highway and around in town. And they even gave us, I think, a 4-man team to help manage Roberts Point Park for after the fireworks display. So we're going to have PD officers that are going to be embedded with Parks and Wildlife is going to commit some resources, but DPS is going to be the heavy lift on it.
Let DPS do the berry control line.
That's been part of the discussion. So, we think we have some really good strategies on dealing with the behavior that goes on at the pit for next spring break. Some ideas were crowd control, limiting the size of the groups that gather. Is something that came out of that discussion when we were having it with the short-term rental people. That would be something that you guys would look at if you wanted to do some kind of ordinance or something like that, that would limit the grouping or how they group or not allow them to encircle, or, you know, we would have to figure out language or whatever we on something like that. Other than that, that's pretty much the nitty gritty of it for right now.
One of the ideas was extending the bollards down a certain part of the beach, and so I know that there's pros and cons to doing that, but that just something that would cost us money, so
Take
obviously.
the bollards further south.
Why were the bollards originally placed there and have we ever extended them further down?
They were originally placed there in response to crazy spring breaks back in the
Yeah, like,
Late 80s,
so,
early
yeah,
90s.
so like in the eighties, some of you may remember, they used to actually put bollards down the roadway and divide the road into two separate lanes and have little cutouts for turnarounds. And then they put up the safety bollards there, and that became the safety area. Spring break was used to be condensed further in town. It was, you know, started
Yeah.
at Avenue G and went down to, you know, like Beach Lodge. That
Yeah.
was usually about the spring break crowds. And after the eighties into the nineties, they pulled up the bollards for the roadway, and ever since then, the crowds have just continuously moved further and further south. That's just kind of been, and the way it looks when we look at it, the traffic pattern seems to be, they come in, they find the first access road, they hit the beach, you know, right at 26, they take a right, and that's where they start to group up. That's the typical pattern that we see. We don't know what it's gonna do whenever we put in access road B, you know, if that's gonna change the where it is and how that is. We'll just have to wait and see. We use the blue barrels. We usually put those blue barrels out for spring Sandfest, and we leave them up through spring break, and that kind of helps define the roadway. Because when we don't define the roadway, then you start getting encroachment and stuff like that, and it becomes a chaotic mess at times. So anything that allows us to define the roadway would be good. Now, whether we want to do that year round or I don't know, because, you know, during the summertime, when we're not in spring break mode, that area, you know, between 19 and 45 is, I mean, that's where all the families go, and we don't have the encroachment issues and stuff like that. So that's, I don't know, that's a bigger picture for a longer term deal if we want to do the bollards, you know, farther down, or how far to go with them and stuff. Cause I think we put the barrels down to around, I think we get them down to like 42.
Yeah, almost all the way down to the first subdivision now.
Yeah,
That's where I live.
yeah, we
I live at
get,
42, and I.
We get
have
close to
never
there.
seen So many kids. This
Yeah.
spring break was the busiest I've ever seen behind my house.
Because they moved down even further.
yeah,
Yeah, well, and the kids that come across my boardwalk looking for a bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
They even knock on doors.
Oh, yeah.
Looking for a bathroom.
Even the fact.
Are you saying that they're down at 42 because that's where the barrels stop? So they're stopping where the barrels stop? Or they're trying to get away from the barrels?
Well,
Get away from him.
yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I know that, but
Well, I don't know. The barrels allow us to definitely maintain a good section of roadway, because, you know, we sign the barrels on, and we do a temporary parking order for spring break and for Sandfest. It says that you can't park on the dune side of the barrels. And, you know, we ticket and tow cars and stuff like that if they're encroaching the roadway, so that we're able to maintain that nice wide roadway. That works well. That's been a really good strategy that we've used. But we don't use it, you know, past spring break. So I don't know what extending the barrels would look like. I mean, the bollards.
The bollards makes more room for people to walk and set up, but then it's gonna limit your parking to
Yes,
one car deep or two cars deep.
yeah. And if you throw RVs into the mix with that, you know, then
They can
Then-
get their 40 foot.
The beach gets thinner down there.
It can get narrow
Last
Yeah.
after the ball goes down
Yeah.
there. It's-
Yeah.
Yeah, the beach really starts to narrow.
Yeah, especially down in the 40, 45, 48, down in there. I mean, it gets really,
We
really,
noticed
really
last year
narrow.
too with the city of Corpus only, and really, we had 2 weeks and they were really hitting the first week.
Yeah, they,
In that second week, we had actual groups for the first time in front of Seagull and Sandpiper, which we hadn't had
yeah,
in years. And it was groups that would just, all of a sudden you'd see a group of trucks. I mean, it'd be 50 cars just congregating right there all of a sudden. And then
yeah, we,
next thing you know, cops
we-
show up, they leave.
Yeah.
They would-
yeah, because we actually responded into the city of Corpus for mutual aid about 3 or 4 times where they called us to go help them the second week because they didn't plan for a 2-week op. They just did 1 week and then they went back to normal operations.
I was
Yeah,
surprised I saw
well-
that on the news before and I was like, man, there you.
Yeah.
So I had an after action meeting with our state partners and I invited the city of Corpus. Because I figured if we were gonna come up with a spring break strategy, it would be great to partner with them so that we were having a consistent enforcement across both beaches and they didn't show up to it. I didn't get a response from any of their command staff. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Hmm.
So
We're gonna keep trying though.
no,
We need to
I'm,
partner
the
with
conversations are gonna continue. I'm hoping that I'm gonna see, Chief Markle. I think this coming month in July, we have our quarterly, Coastal Bend Police Chiefs Association meeting, and I'm hoping that he'll be in attendance there and I'll have a one-on-one discussion with him.
Well, I'm glad,
About that.
I'm glad you got DPS and Parks and Wildlife this next weekend.
Yeah, DPS was ready to commit fully to any of the strategies that we want to deal with spring break. So we enjoy a great partnership with Parks and Wildlife and with DPS. If it wasn't for those partnerships, we would no way be able to be successful with managing spring break or some of the busier times. So
Yeah.
they are a huge help. And the level that they're willing to do is unprecedented. This is not something that you'll see in other communities across the state where they participate with stuff, them willing to come in and do work with us inside the fireworks display and do something that's very specific to our city is very unique. So, we've worked really hard at building those relationships over the years and so it really pays off.
Is there a cost as a city to do that?
No, well, we're doing a two-stage deal. So we're gonna hire, we've hired off-duty police officers to come in and do traffic control, which is gonna free up our guys to be able to try to manage the inside of the park. So there's gonna be a little bit of a cost associated with that, but we have a contract fund that we do every year for Sandfest and spring break and events like that. So we're just pulling out of that fund.
Okay. All right, well, I know we don't want to spend hours on this, but I just want to make sure it was a topic that we all had discussion with Chief, because I do think it's important and something that maybe we can fix just by, you guys re-strategizing whatever you can do, which I think is great, but
What are the thing of, it says in project and possible extension of the bollards. How do we find out about that? Whether that's a good idea, bad idea? Is that an action item for us to distribute?
We need to work on that at the staff level.
Just to figure out.
Yeah,
Plus
mean-
minuses and everything.
Well, and how
You know,
far you want to extend all that kind of good stuff, I think.
Okay.
I think staff could continue to work with Chief and,
Yeah.
Daniel and everybody to kind of look at that and what would be the next logical extension point? What would be the cost? And just see if that's something we want to consider.
I can, one more bullet point, not that I need to add more to your report, but the beach nourishment issues, the things we're gonna run into in 5 to 10 years from now about driving on the beach and about safety on the beach. And really talking Palmilla South, those are things we just want to start evaluating, I think, and understanding that it would be a massive project. We're going to need federal and state partners to help our beaches not erode on that. And, it's going to continue to get, I think, narrower and narrower as 10, 20 years down the road. But Padres going through it right now, they're going to probably lose access to their beach if they don't do something shortly.
I don't think either Corpus beaches or City of Port Aransas beaches will qualify for federal beach renourishment. That list is frozen. It was frozen about 2015. So all, huh? Yeah.
Dump all the seaweed in there.
Anyway, that's just.
It's something to think about for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm all
progressively
for
get worse as time goes on.
whatever's gonna help.
And one thing I noticed this year, keep in mind is as PU, everybody were taking everybody off the beaches, our in-town call volume, it skyrocketed, you know, and it's congested, probably get out, go to neighborhoods, you know, house parties. You kick them off one, you go on another one, so we're gonna need to come up with a secondary plan on how we're gonna deal with that group. Because if they're just leaving the beach and going to a house and got, you know, you got 60 people in a house, and there's fire concerns, there's no concerns, everything. And then traffic concerns, because already we have a parking issue, they're really stacked the streets with another 100 cars, it's like, we get it. So it's something that it's definitely a compounding effect whenever you kick off the beach.
And some of the discussions that we've had with the short-term rental companies is, you know, how to deal with the noise complaints and the disturbances and things that are going on in their properties during these peak times. So one of the things that I presented to our state partners, and they seemed very receptive to it, was to form like little task forces. So basically we would take one PD officer and, you know, 2 or 3 troopers and 2 or 3 game wardens and create like a little task force. If we get a disturbance call at a short-term rental place and they go through the eviction because there's a bunch of minors or something going on, right now we don't have the manpower to sit and write 60 tickets because we've got, you know, calls backed up. But if we were able to dedicate, you know, one person out of our staff and have some support from the state agencies, we could respond to those evictions in a group like that, and then let that group write tickets across the board. So, you know, you'd have a couple of troopers writing tickets, you'd have some Parks and Wildlife guys writing tickets, you'd have our guys writing tickets, and they would be able to handle that. We would be better able to manage our resources by having one of our guys there that can enforce any ordinance violations or anything that are there that state agencies can't, but they can help us address any state violations. So that's one idea that we came up with, and they seemed very receptive to want to do that. So, I mean, that's definitely an idea on how to combat some of that stuff, because we know that we're going to run into it.
Well, the thing, I mean, having people gather at the beach in large crowds is not the problem, right? That's not a bad thing. It's the bad actors who come into those groups and do the bad things that you're wanting to avoid or change.
Right.
So that's a difficult thing to pinpoint on how to do, right? Because
Right.
to Daniel's point, I mean, great, have them all be at the beach, having a good time, you know, not being, you know, horrible, right?
Right.
But if you kick them off, then like I said, maybe they're going to go somewhere else and do that. And it's what behaviors are we trying to change or trying to avoid? And I know it's the
You know, underage drinking is a big one. Then, you know, there's a lot of small, it's kind of like the broken windows theory, right? You fix the small broken windows and that doesn't turn into bigger problems and things like that. So if we were to try to address the behavior at the pit, then we would be targeting underage drinking, allowing a minor to drink, any kind of safety behaviors. I mean, all the way down to littering, you know, looking for somebody throwing stuff down and writing them tickets for that and doing strict enforcement on that. That is the kind of stuff that changes the behavior. You know, once they realize that that is not an environment to where they're going to just be able to blend in and do whatever they want to do, then it tends to move somewhere else. So, I mean, that's definitely part of,
or maybe they don't come.
or maybe they don't come.
Yeah.
I think that's, right now, there's too much to.
Yeah.
control.
Can't even-
You know,
yeah.
So much more hard first.
Yeah.
The amount we have.
Right.
Yeah, as long as you have enough people to
Yeah.
control those large crowds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and we can't do it without the
yeah,
partnership
Yeah,
with the
exactly
state.
right.
So,
I have a question. You know, STR owners decide whether they want to rent for spring break or have their friends come or they come or just take it out of or block it. Of any of those terrible situations you had, did any of the STR owners know that went on and did they get cited or get a black mark for having a house party, even though it wasn't them, but it was something in our ordinance that they're notified, your house was a problem.
We don't keep track of the police incidents right now. We get the calls that come in directly to us, the emails that come in directly to us, or anything that goes into the hotline.
But an owner might not know they had a 60 party place if they
I
don't live
don't know what
here.
that process is once the police are called.
So I can tell you that after the discussions with the short-term rental people, entities that we had, they were having discussions on how they could combat some of the stuff as well. They had, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, there was a bunch that were considering changing the age on the people that they were allowed to rent to. They had a lot that the parent or guardian or somebody would come in and check them in and then leave.
Yeah.
And then they had a house full of kids and stuff like that. And I know that they were having discussions internally amongst themselves on, what they're gonna do with that kind of stuff. They weren't thrilled with that kind of behavior either.
Right, they don't, nobody likes it, but if owners knew. The owner of the property knew this was going on.
Right.
They may. Consider, maybe I hold off on that, and then maybe they don't. I'm just trying to tie the things together, not put it all on enforcement or the management company, but the city come through. Do what's sort of in our regs, that if the police are called or there's a noise violation, you know about it. Not just through code enforcement that they get a hold of, but through the city staff, regardless of how it comes in. Where those people know, oh my gosh, I got a violation of here. I wasn't even there, but they're at least aware of what's happening. Before something really bad happens, and they're like, oh my God, how come nobody told me?
And that's definitely part of that falls back into, the strategy of being able to go to these houses and spend the time there to take the enforcement action.
Yeah.
We just don't have the time to do it now.
No, but
So
if
when
you've
we
done
know,
it once,
right.
and it comes after the fact, it's loaded, and homeowners now know, police were called 3 times to my house.
Yeah,
Now I
and
think
that's-
about.
That's
what
just
I-
something that we'll have to put a mechanism in place to be able to track and send over to City Hall.
Yeah.
Like this past year, we would show up, we would help the property owner do an eviction or whatever they were gonna do with it, and we would move on down the road. Well, you were with me
I
on some
was
of the
with
peak
you.
time, and you
Yes.
saw the call volume and how we were having to respond to things and do stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
I
that,
want us to be able to support, if we change. Or say, look, you have 3 minor violations, that's 1. You could lose the result, you could lose the opportunity to rent your place.
Right.
That brings everybody into play. Even in our own policy, it says that the best effort we've got in the most, in the hotel motel tax from THLA says you go after them and they lose the ability to even rent their place for a year. Well, we don't want that to happen.
right?
No,
But-
because that's not the homeowner's fault.
Yeah, but
They don't.
they
know.
make the decision.
Let's keep working
Okay.
on this. We're going on
Right.
30 minutes. We need to keep rolling.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right,
Richie,
we'll figure that out.
sit down.
Item J, discuss the lighting on Highway 361 corridor. We talked about this a little bit. David mentioned it. I had hoped that this year we would get more assistance from our teams, Todd Hunter, TxDOT to get this moving forward. I think we have everything in place to do that. I think this legislative session was a little overwhelming.
Yeah, look,
So we'll circle back around with those parties and see if we can't get something moving forward.
yes.
All right, item K, discussion on adding trees to Royal Palm Cemetery. Last year, again, I put on the agenda to improve the roadway. I would like to see us add some money to the budget to put some trees and a little bit more landscaping to the cemetery, just to beautify that a little bit. So not a huge amount.
Okay.
We can get some trees, maybe some park benches or something. All right. Item L is discussion on the Maritime Memorial. So this came up in one of our council meetings last year, oh, probably September, October, and I know Colleen and Ray and David have kind of been working on something. We have now gotten multiple, I guess I would say, bids from several artists. We reached out to a bunch. Colleen's done a great job and put out kind of an RFQ, if you will, or RFP. And so we got several proposals. This is, nothing's final, but I wanted to make sure that now that we have some proposals and know kind of what some estimated costs would be, that we put the money in the budget. So I'm going to continue to work with Colleen and Ray and David and
Yep.
staff. And hopefully we'll have something that we can have into the budget. And certainly if anybody has any thoughts or ideas, it's not a closed working group. So please, let everybody know.
Besides that, could we sell papers so people could buy from Memorial?
Absolutely. So the thought is, at this point, get the bids, which we've been collecting, kind of finalize some kind of design, and then once we know what that is, then we can go to private donors about the total cost of the project. I don't want to see the city have to spend more than, I think, $50,000. I just think that's a probably max that we should spend. But the project may cost more than that, particularly on the other elements that we want to add, like you said, benches, and then the plaques for the individuals that might get honored at this location. So it's very similar to what we did at the new playground. We allowed individuals to make donations to put in those really big, large palm trees, which are lovely. And so those people who bought the palm tree, write their check, they get a plaque. So this would probably be similar to that. And obviously council will be in the whole decision of, any final things that get done. So, but I wanted to make sure it's in here so that we have money allocated. Y'all have any thoughts about that? Cost, increasing cost, changing cost? Love it, don't love it?
Worst case scenario, $150,000. Seems like something like this would not be hard to find off the shelves to sell a brick or something.
Exactly. I think that based on the preliminary costs we've received from these three artists, I don't estimate that it would cost that much by any means. You've seen kind of a couple of different scenarios here, right? Maybe 70, maybe 87, depending on size. I mean, it's not, I think other than the statue, yes, we need to have, a bronze plaques or something, right? To include, but that shouldn't be another $50,000, right? So.
The 50.
50, and then we attempt to raise the rest. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, I mean, I think so. We can, if y'all want to budget a little more, we can.
See more.
Okay, maybe 75.
Yeah.
Okay. We got design estimates. But we got some, obviously 3 different artists contributed designs, but not actual, firm bids necessarily. But I think 75 may cover most of it. And then, like I said, we can go out and ask for donations.
Yeah.
100%. I think there'd be some people to do that. So. Okay, any other questions, comments, thoughts? All right, item N is discussion on the animal shelter. M, not N. Councilmember Kruger.
Yep. On the animal shelter, we met with the shelter planners, went through space needs and stuff like that. This building over here is just so bad right now. There's no ventilation. We have tons of animals and, they come and go. They're just coming and going. They are dumping on the beach as fast as we can. The boys can pick them up and, puppies. We've got 4 left if anybody needs one.
Have we gotten any estimates on what, like if we do put it out there by the airport, do we have any estimates?
No, well, we need to wait on that.
That's what the shelter planners do for you. They end up giving you a square footage
And it's
estimate.
just, building here is high and.
Figure out where we're gonna put it first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we have no property. I know the chamber would like to see it gone.
Yeah, we're waiting on the GLO to get a response.
Oh, I know, Petey did. He's a good dog. Somebody just left him.
Okay, so this particular item, then, Joellen, are you asking for money in the next budget cycle to improve what's there? Or are you just saying we
No,
need?
we have improved whatever we can on that building and.
And we put the mini mobile in and that's helped some, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, we're just overwhelmed.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just overwhelming right now. And it's just not healthy either being in there. But I mean, the guy's got to work in there. I mean,
GLO approves, what money do we need to, for the next step?
So if the GLO approves the site, I believe it would take shelter planners, I think, what'd they say, 6 months to get you to where you have plans.
right.
So let's say they're, they said 6 weeks or so out from coming up with the spacing idea. And then if council wanted to move forward beyond that, so we're in, let's say it's September 1st, September, October, November, December, February or March, they could possibly have plans. You bid it in by April or May, then you're gonna need a chunk of funds, but not all of it, probably just like the first quarter, you would have to budget now.
And we had, last year we said 100 grand to do some upgrades over there.
Yeah, and
which
then
I
you
know we
had
didn't spend.
400,000 in the building and structure
Mhm.
is what we budgeted last.
So that's some of
That's
that
carryover.
still there.
I'm pulling that up.
I don't think we've touched any of this.
Yeah, we have.
The
We
shelter,
spent money on the mini mobile, so that costs.
Yeah, but
Well,
that.
that's
counts
out of the 100
100K.
grand.
No, no, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came out of 100K.
Yeah,
So the 400
We've done a delineation out of the 400,000 we've.
for the
spent,
shelter planners, right,
Um,
Dave?
yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
They haven't even
Built
built
us.
us
They
yet.
haven't built us.
Yeah,
Oh,
and that's
I
not
think
much
it's
anyway. That's-
46. We've spent right out about 8,000 on the delineation, and then we're bringing the building, and we've spent some out of the 100. 100 is under.
Is this separate or does this go through the police department?
It's in the police department budget.
Okay.
We spent about 13,000 in the 100.
Yeah, so we didn't still have.
what's, how much is left budgeted?
86, 860 out of the 100.
So that should be enough to at least get the plans, right?
Well,
We've
the
got 400.
yeah, and what's it left over in the 400?
I thought we were talking about the.
300 and.
Yeah, the plans,
90,
So we have.
2,000.
plans, you're probably looking at about 250K
Yeah,
for full design set.
so we shouldn't. need
Plans,
any more money
engineering.
For this budget year with that.
Well.
Well, we gotta
What's
rebudget.
left?
If you, right, but if you put it out to bid in, let's just say May, then you guys awarded a contract in May, then you would at least have the first couple draws, like on dirt work and foundation by August, September. You would have you would have maybe, you would definitely have 500K in draws on that by October 1st, would be my
So-
guess.
Do you reappropriate the $400,000 then from this budget cycle?
I think you need more. You need closer to 750.
I think you would need 500K in construction and 250K in plans. I think if you'd have to put 750 in there to be able to comfortably move forward.
Even without having any clue what the total design is.
Well,
gonna
no,
cost?
that would be, yeah, I mean, so here's the thought. By the end of August, you're gonna know your square footage and you're gonna know ballpark what you guys would have to spend on it.
So we might have some kind of actual placeholder number.
Yeah.
Any other money we need to allocate to the existing facility or any other thoughts about a possible relocation? Temporary, albeit that would be better than the location they're in until we get some other new facility built. Like another municipal building that gets vacated because we're moving into other buildings. Like, we'll put them in Daniels EMS.
When he moves out.
Get on it. Got you.
I mean, I'm.
Well, the other buildings all,
I mean, is
yeah.
there any other, I'm just asking.
The gas one's a rental. That one goes back.
A rental. I
Yeah.
can't think of anything that's not a rental except for Nature Preserve, and they're not gonna move till the rec center's built.
And the fire tents.
Fire tents.
Yeah, the fire
Tent.
tents, I don't know how we'd repurpose those for the shelter.
You're gonna spend more money trying to put them somewhere else.
I don't know what we'd use it for.
So what do we need to budget for the next year? What
Well, I
would
think
be-
for now, we put in a placeholder and we kind of lean on planner shelters to get us a number by
Yeah.
early August.
Looking at least a couple $1 million. Hopefully we can get some more donations.
Yeah, so give us some time to work on that one. I'm gonna try to,
Okay.
Which pops that come out of?
General fund.
I'm gonna
General
try to
fund.
push on them to get us a square footage
Yeah.
number.
For it, general fund. And we did have general fund, we put in this year for construction for the city hall expansion more than was needed. It did come in less than we budgeted, so you've got some savings there in the general fund in total.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep that going. Item N, discussion on street repair.
Was just seeing if we could, if it's possible to get any more streets repaired or the potholes still. Is that something we look at right now or?
Well,
is
no,
that something
that's
out
something you guys would decide to put, try to
Construction
put as much as you can into the construction fund, which is this, which fund is it, Darla?
The street.
Street maintenance fund.
Yeah, street maintenance fund.
It started out this year at 834,000.
Yeah.
Now,
744.
If we could get that up, that would be a good, if we could get it up a little bit more healthy, we could do another nice little, a little mini, pothole
something?
project.
And it's something.
Where I say pothole, but they're going in and, they're cutting out squares that are as long as this room, so.
Yeah.
So the street and drainage bond that we did, how much is left of that?
Oh, it'll be,
It'll be gone, right?
yes.
So I.
We're
thought when
tapping
we
it
did
out.
that, we discussed that maybe whenever that ended, we would look at maybe doing another. I thought we decided that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
Another
really with streets, if you look at our history of street bonds, typically every 3 years, we've done a street bond. And usually they last a couple of years. So usually an asphalt street has a street life around a life expectancy of about 15 years. So
We're
we're,
at that stage again.
yeah, always. There's always a
We
street,
found another street.
Yeah, we're on sand.
quite possibly.
What streets do we have left to repair? or-
In the current
Past
one,
Yeah.
there's some drainage on Brumley right now. The pothole project is completed. We added the cemetery street, we added to this. I believe that's it. So this one's almost wrapping up. It's almost finished.
Yeah.
We all drive around and see what really needs.
Yeah, so what we're doing right now, so we have our engineers, so before, and this was back in like 2008, 2009, the city had a street
Master plan.
a street master plan. And we categorized a street like hurricanes, Cat 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Cat 5 were streets that we needed to rebuild automatically. And then we had a cost estimate, linear feet, a brief description of what needed to be done on that particular street. So we're redoing that right now. So as soon as the street and drainage project is completed, we're gonna have a new master plan for you guys to look at. Whether or not it's something that we would bring you guys next summer and say, hey, time to do another street and drainage bond. Or we could bring it to you guys in the fall and you guys could, by January, February, you could say, hey, let's do a street and drainage bond for the May election. If you wanted to do a large one. Otherwise, if it's in this pot of money, it's just a small in-house version for like maybe, whatever's in there.
But you could get.
So it's your
you could-
guys's.
You could get some repairs done outside of just potholes to some streets. You don't have to reconstruct the whole street, but there are some that and I think we should do that, look at saying, hey, this street maybe needs sidewalk, curb, gutter, whatever. I mean, I definitely think that we should do both. I think we should continue to push a little money into the street and maintenance fund, look at those things that we can kind of do quick or short-term fixes on.
Yeah.
And then look to see the bigger project with the engineers to say, what's the next big section of streets we need to have done?
So I agree. So why don't we do this? We'll put as much as we can in this fund. Staff will work on finalizing the street maintenance spreadsheet. We'll bring it to you guys this fall and you guys can do some immediate repairs with the construction fund money. And then by looking at that spreadsheet, then you guys can make the decision of whether or not you want to move forward with a May bond project.
Mhm.
Okay, does that sound good?
Yeah.
Some of the general maintenance, because I know right there on Alistair and Avenue C, just turning at the bank, that turn, I do it every day.
I know,
And
streets falling
those-
apart over there, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that whole
They're-
area up through there.
Yeah.
This was long.
Yeah. And I think you could go in and take and clean up some of those aprons around, that's something
General.
not expensive. Okay, all right. Item O, discussion on affordable housing.
Just threw it in there. I know it's hard to figure out.
Well, we talked about that before, that when we did that one project, that there was something in place to do something similar, right?
You mean the property we just
The- like the-
purchased on
like the
next to
Palladium?
IGA?
No, the apartments that we already built,
The
Yeah,
Palladium.
yeah, Palladium.
Yes.
that we had something already in place that if that was such that maybe we could do another.
Oh,
That was a PFC, right?
Yes.
Public Facilities Corporation.
Yes.
Yes, that was our
It's like
public
actual
facilities
housing
corporation.
facility. It's a little bit
I
different
think,
word.
I do recall Palladium wanting to do another project down the highway if we ever got the dirt.
Right.
It wouldn't have the same, and I don't know how, if Palladium understands it or not. Well, I'm sure they do, but we had that infusion of $8 million money, $8 million from the government, from the state. That's what tipped the scales on that
Made
project.
it work.
Right.
So without having that, it's a much, much different problem. Trying to lure someone in.
You have to be on a big scale. Or-
It does. Even the 183 units was on the small side for them. Typically-
150 to 200 million.
Yeah, they like
where it starts working.
Yeah, they like the 250 plus apartment number.
How many acres do they sit on there at Palladium?
That is about 7. And we purchased that property from the general land office. Came out of our 8 million.
Does the ordinance need to change so a front door doesn't take up 5,000 square feet of dirt? To get affordable, make it more affordable?
Never did before.
So I don't know if affordable is the right word, but just even viable.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
If you buy the property where Las Brisas was and there were some apartments there before it. It would have taken 24 to 30 units to make it even really break even and work.
And
The
they
construction
do-
cost and everything
they
involved.
generally wanted to build another 6 park on that land, they couldn't because of that, the legal. So they
Yeah.
just scrapped it and have a plan for 11
Yeah, it's not a zoning issue that's gonna solve the problem.
It's not.
It's not a code issue.
You would need that density to come down either through flexible unit or something else to make it work.
Okay.
Because I mean, that property over there, I think now is gonna end up being 9 short-term rentals, at least that's how it's platted.
Yeah.
But really, in order just to put the long-term rental housing in there, you would have needed quite a few more units than that acre could hold, but flexible unit would probably allow it, but you just have the certainty of it and there's a chance you couldn't get it. You buy the property and that thing traded for 1.6 million, something like that, but then you buy the property. And they're, hey, tell you what, you're not gonna get your flexible unit on this, so now you can't do the 24 apartments, and then therefore now we're back to where we didn't wanna be, and that's okay, you got 9 short-term rentals.
But I had the discussion with you and I think another construction guy that they really weren't in for a long-term project like that either.
I admittedly had interest in it, but it got sold before I could even try.
Oh, well, yeah,
We
that,
were-
that one, but I mean, a lot of people aren't in for the long-term commitment on the properties, you know.
I mean, it takes years before you
Yes.
can get them and turn them
Yes,
profitable. where
yes,
you can
so,
Try to do something with
I
them.
mean, people want to build and sell it, build and sell it, build and sell it.
For a multi-unit project, yes, but if you want to be able to allow someone to afford a single residential lot at a less expensive price, you have to get smaller to make the dollars work. Does that solve your affordable housing problem? No, because 1, 2Z, 3Z doesn't solve the problem. Would you be able to, with a smaller density, create another subdivision, to Chad's point, maybe a flexible unit developed that maybe you get 20 units, you know, in an acre versus 11 or 8, and then you can sell 3,000 square foot lots to someone for $100,000 for them to build their single family residence for, you know, a certain, you know, group of people, but that is not going to get you multiple units. It solves a pocket of it, but it doesn't overall fix, you know, the affordable housing
No.
crisis. But we're not going to fix that here. We live in a resort community on a beach. It's expensive to build and land's expensive.
Yep.
So I don't know how you budget for that, but the only thing that we can possibly do from a city standpoint, I think, would be look at some additional projects where there are larger projects that we don't have to pay for foot the bill for. But again, that only solves a certain amount of people who want to live in, say, an apartment. Not everybody wants to be in an apartment. People want to be in, you know, their own little houses with a backyard and a fence, and so.
Like you would have just remove the short-term rental ability and make it to where that work in a community of smaller, more affordable properties.
Right.
Would it be worth trying to at least get through the center and maybe put together a workshop or a brainstorming group or something? Is there, few of us could meet it, at least I'd like to reach out to a couple POC groups and just see what their proposals are, and how, you know, what the brainstorming on. Longer term, we're still gonna have an issue, but what's it look like now versus what it looked like when the Palladium happened? If we decide to do something like that, I'd be happy to be part.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, I have 4 tiny little apartments and I've had no vacancies in them, and I've had at least once, twice.
What size, how many square feet are they?
Tiny.
Under 300.
Right.
And they're little studios. I mean, they're all legal non-conforming.
Yeah.
Little, I mean, you've got a kitchen, which is also your bathroom sink, and then you've got a toilet and tub, and then you've got a room, and they've been full since the day the doors, since they got cleaned up and were open.
And some of those tenants want to move and have their own
Yeah.
spot, and it's hard for them to find the next thing that they can afford to do.
Yeah,
No doubt. No,
Right.
they're living in that.
What is, what's a square footage cost right now for stick built for low end, like if it was an apartment?
Apartments, and you've got some
Different.
commercial code stuff you've got.
Yeah.
Elevators, fire suppressors
So 400 a foot.
Yeah.
for commercial, but if you want to build a small residential,
You could get it in the low 3s.
yeah.
What's the thinking point of like, how many of these long-term homes do we put forward? I mean, are we just spinning our wheels, or at what point is it like equalizing the town, you know?
Where there's rentals
The
available.
demand, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's just, we've been talking for 20 years.
I have
Or
about
more.
150
So I mean, that's what I'm
employees in
saying,
Pleasantville
if
here.
somebody just builds 5 of them, you know. If you're building.
Yeah, but if you think about it though, I mean, the silver bullet isn't one apartment complex. The silver bullet is a whole bunch. Like if you look at Aspen, that, you know, in a lot of these town, you know, Breckenridge and a lot of the big ski resorts, it's 5 units here, 10 units there, 6 units here. Maybe some of them are big, but it's a whole bunch of little ones too that add up. And so you just got to keep chipping away. I mean, if the city built a 12-plex somewhere, that'd be a huge win. And you just got to keep
And it would
every,
fill up and there would be
Yeah.
a waiting list.
I mean, every 4 or 5 years, the city builds a 12-plex somewhere.
Well, let's
Need
say
to
it's
build a
set up for
record.
the builders that own it currently, like, I mean, what? If they came from break even, I mean, what's their percent, like, I was just asking her about like the Gavin's property over there, and they can build like, you know, several
Yeah.
over there, so. At what point do you work some kind of 5-year deal or some kind of something where?
There's a difference between creating the housing and affordable housing because it's, and even just to create it with building cost and land cost, it's hard to hit that break even number and you're still having to charge it's a pretty high number of what you're getting.
That's the point. Even if your land cost is free, the cost to build and the cost to maintain and insurance and everything else, it doesn't make it to where you're going to be able to charge zero rent. You've got to charge a decent amount to make it work. Yeah.
Just having the property is a big deal here. I mean, finding property.
I think our next opportunity would be on the wetlands property behind the IGA.
Yeah, you could probably get 12 units.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think that if we're gonna take the next step and try to do something that is, you know, PFC related and or city related, then that's our biggest opportunity to do because it's in town and it's there and we could, you know, have some kind of housing. So I think, you know, to Chad's point, we can take that into the next level to a workshop and maybe look at that and start, you know, I know Ray has some ideas in here about moving forward on just the wetlands part, right? The park, which is great. And so I think it's a good time to look at, you know, what we do around there too. If we're going to master plan that, then we ought to think about what we can do to master plan around that park.
What about
The one thing
property
that-
over here, Dave? By Aransas Harbor, I mean, behind where they're at now, the nature preserve and Parks and Rec. And there's some by the Aransas Park.
A little teeny chunk, there'll be a
Is
chunk
that-
there when they move. But you know, we gave the
that's-
middle chunk, we traded with the water.
The water district for their
Okay.
water tower.
Okay.
But Dale, there is one thing in the codes that isn't there that I think needs to be there. And that is like a bunkhouse style structure to where it's almost like dormitory rooms. To where like, you know, like the Clark family or like any of the big businesses could build like some bunk style workforce housing that's, you know, in perpetuity, could never be used as a short-term rental, but is a smaller product than the 600 square foot product.
Would that be for J1 workers?
Yeah, it could be.
It would be
yeah.
for any
Yeah.
workers. You wouldn't put it in the code only for foreign workers. I mean, you would
Yeah,
make it for
I mean,
anybody.
that's the
mean,
one
that's what I
product that we
about.
don't have that we could use. Nicole, I mean, we've talked about that before. And that's like the bunk dorm.
So people live in 300 square
hospital.
feet, non-conforming, it's not in the code.
Smaller spaces than that, when you think about RV.
I know. But people do that. We're not forcing people from 2,000 square feet into 400 square feet. And if you want to work and live or just live here, there's nothing that affords us in code to do that, which would be attractive to a builder or an investor to lower that break even.
Well, to me, this is almost a product that's not necessarily for some outside entity.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it's like, you know, it's like the Clark family comes in and says, hey, we want to build this on our property for our workers. I don't know if it would be a product that you would just want.
Steve DeWitt had a plan for his
Yeah.
laundry facility
Right.
years ago.
Yeah.
Never got built, but I remember when it came through, there was a lot of fight because there was people like, no, it needs to be 600 square feet a unit.
And it didn't need to be 600.
And they don't need the 600 square.
Right,
feet.
right.
You could, like, redefine flexible unit development that was able to, anybody that wanted to build it, if you built it under these specifications, you have this guideline that would work that you don't have to go to P and Z council for, so that they've got something in their head already when they're going out to buy this property, and it's not such a what if situation.
Yeah.
I think we've come up with a number of different design work.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would,
Keep the workforce here.
Right.
It's like, you can't build something for the workforce.
Yeah.
Somebody build a bunch of 200 square foot apartment. I lived in New York City, I lived at 70 square feet, and it was fine.
right, at a certain point in your life, it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The combination.
It was very, it was not illegal.
Right on the number.
That was fine.
Okay, well, that's not necessarily then a budget item, but
No.
it is a future discussion item, so I think, we can keep looking at that. Have some discussions, yeah. Okay, item P is discussion on implementing a dark sky policy.
I was just putting this in there. It's not a budget item either. It was just to look at when you drive down this. After Harvey, it seemed like everybody came back with these huge, big bright lights and everything. And at some point, maybe we can look at that and talk about it, but we can move on also,
I would,
unless somebody wants to talk about it.
point, for, we are certified as a Bird City, Texas
Mhm.
community, and part of that is, implementing or providing outreach education on the dark sky compliance. Now, one of the things I did want to do, and it's just, way down the bottom of my list, is creating or just providing document citing all the positive reasons for that to the building department, to just as, outreach more, as, less than, I'm not trying to get into the ordinances and all that, but just the benefits to not only the dark skies, but for bird populations too, since they migrate at night. You can buy these types of lights anywhere now, so.
Yeah.
I would love to see something like that. I live behind Sandcastle Bondo.
Say there, that was aggressive.
Huh?
You walk the dog in the morning, it is bright.
But like 15 years ago,
Pretty sure it by the light
something
bulbs.
like that, during city council, someone from McDonald Observatory came here. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but for safety also, people, so they understand, where we want safety lights is on the ground.
Yeah.
It doesn't help us
Yeah.
light the sky.
No.
You wanna feel safe walking your dog
Yeah.
when their lights are shining down. So that presentation I had, like, they showed where a light went up everywhere.
Yeah.
Kind of lit on the ground. When they filtered it down, it was like the ground was super bright. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's not just buying, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to buy a new light, but
Change
the
direction.
yeah, you can retrofit it or,
Yeah,
shield it down. But
it's really nice.
So
yeah.
is that necessarily, then do we need to look at the lighting ordinance to maybe re-look at the lighting that gets implemented? I mean, I know that I know code enforcement certainly goes out and tells people if their lights are too shiny based on complaints and things like that, right? So, I mean, a dark sky policy is different than change in lighting ordinance to make sure people are more, environmentally friendly with their lighting. So what direction do we need to talk about? Because I'm just trying to,
I guess the
What
dark
direction?
sky is more of the amber lighting. There's quite a bit to it, but,
That's what yours, right, as well, but you mentioned exploring dark skies there, along with, I think it's in the comp plan,
it is in the comp.
So you should probably explore it.
Mhm.
I feel like our lighting ordinance has a lot of teeth. It's difficult. It's one of our most difficult ones to enforce.
Mhm.
Because basically, if you can't see the light bulb, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Just a difficult one
Yeah.
for us. I've never done research on, what makes a good lighting ordinance beyond that, so it would take some effort. And
And the dark skies, I think they take their, like McDonald's signs way up here. They're like at eye level and you actually can see their signs better at eye, like, was it 6 feet or something down? Fredericksburg has that.
In certain areas, they
Yeah.
do, yeah, the main corridor.
We're, unless that they do something, we're not gonna ever truly be completely like dark sky. I mean, even in Fort Davis, they're having issues with all the oil.
The wind
gas,
turbines,
Which
yeah.
is so far away, it's just so bright and so flat, you know, in some of those areas, so, but I think it would definitely hurt, help and a good example.
I think that, I mean, again, I don't pretend to understand or know all the parameters around dark sky, but I think if we look at our current lighting ordinance and then look at where we want to be going forward, certainly make the decisions on new construction, any remodels, any changes, especially if we're looking at some streetscape enhancements and we're putting all these new buildings in, what we can do to make sure the new lighting at least is better, and then go in and help with the other target areas that we think need to be improved.
Ray, did y'all do something at the, with a Palladium out there? For the lights or the,
Well, the guy, he contacted us because, they were working on their permit, I think, with their Army Corps, their new permit, and, they had concerns with the birds with the nature reserve right there and that, so he had heard that we were a Bird City, Texas community. And asked what he could do that would help, and so I gave him a list of things, one of them was dark sky compliant lighting, and they, as far as I know, they did put that in. Should look at it more critically when I drive by. But they did native landscaping, they said that in their lease also, it says no cats outdoors. They were supposed to maybe do the bird friendly windows, like a film on them, I don't know exactly, but yeah,
Yeah.
Their lights are like shaded down,
they do shine down.
yeah. So.
Okay, so not a budget item, but a future item to consider. No. Council meeting. Okay. Item Q. Discussing on charging commercial sanitation rates for short-term rentals.
Yes, this was something, when we were using our enterprise revenue on sanitation, my thought was, the commercial businesses with toters are now paying $69 plus tax, I think, a month for trash. Residentials are 36. If you go look, is that about right? Minus tax. I didn't know it went to 69 something. And then checking in our sanitation, we have only defined as residential and commercial in our sanitation code. Most STRs are commercial in nature because the county taxes them at commercial rates for personal property. We require them to actually register with us, and it as an STR is for profit or for helping paying for the cost. And so my thought was in helping our enterprise revenue that we're allowed to have, that Darla's talked about, is considering STRs pay a different rate because they are a commercial entity, both for taxing, insurance. Many of them are owned by corporations and LLCs. And so given that, that was my discussion in helping generate revenue and using some of that money to help keep the city streets a little cleaner, add to the general fund. It would go to general fund, correct? Or no, go to sanitation.
That's the sanitation fund, but you can transfer from sanitation
Okay.
fund to general.
So this was just an opportunity with our industry that we have here in Port Aransas. I did not have any suggestions on rates, just a thought process to see if we were allowed to, or we're not able to, because residential, we consider them residential. That was my thought.
It's here for parties discussions. Why Does our sanitation company or trash company, do they charge more when they pick up a toter?
A commercial toter, yes.
But it's the same size toter as a residential.
It's the same size
So when they're
toter.
picking it up at my apartment complex, I'm paying 75.
Exactly, and they're
76.50
charging us
or
about 68.
something. Okay, so it is.
They charge us a lot more.
Okay.
So if you were going to go this route, you would need a third category that we would report to Republic, because they would be a regular. It's the type of trash that they feel is generated in a commercial toter versus a residential toter, whether it's an STR or a house. It's just a different type of trash and it takes more in the landfill is their justification to us.
But that's what they charge us. We could
No,
charge
so it's,
people.
no, it makes sense. that-
Yes, they do charge more. So you would come up with a third category of a residential commercial that we would bill. And we would still report it to Allied as a Republic, as a house residential.
But we charge our rates based on what they charge us.
Right, we do have a
Right,
markup.
okay.
Mhm.
So, and you know, whatever that is, the markup is. But if we are not asking Republic to change their rate on an STR, we just want to make more money for us to keep
Correct.
on an STR. Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So in doing that, I build a house. I'm going to keep it for 6 months. It's my second home. My family goes there. We have a great time. And then I decide, well, I think I might throw it in the STR pool this year.
Mhm.
So is it then my responsibility to go to the city and say, hey, now I'm officially an STR. I need to pay more for trash?
You've registered your STR with the city.
So then the fee increase would be the moment your STR gets registered with the city, which would flag something in our system. And then we'd be like, oh, they registered. Now you need to go up at 222 Glendale. Right?
Yeah, we'd have to do
I mean, that would be the process, right? So, or you cross-reference Nicole's list of STRs versus the trash bill list, and then automatically everyone gets an increase in $25 or whatever. I'm just trying to think of logically and
And if you
simplistically
didn't
if it's possible.
register it, you don't. You pay residential.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I'm just trying to think about how it gets there.
It would,
And
it would,
what kind of,
in billing, we would have a third category
okay,
that we would bill and report to Republic just to like it's a regular house.
so
They don't really care.
We pay Republic a little more and we pick up the. If my lid's cracked open that much, they won't pick mine up. And that's a line.
Correct, they will not.
So it's like, hey, we're gonna give you a little bit more a month, and if it's overflowing a little bit, get out of the truck.
I don't-
Bring it back up to the third.
So of
But-
the, Nicole, do you have any idea of the registered STR units that we have? Do you have any idea how many are actual single family residential units versus Sandcastle has all 200 units in their complex registered as STR?
Right now, on the top of my head, but that is the report that we probably got.
I'd like to see what that is and what the potential increased revenue would be. I mean, Dale didn't have any suggestions on what the fee is, but I mean, it'd be nice to know from a budget standpoint, you know, what is the potential increase in earning?
And we required them from, is it March to Labor Day to have more toters?
Yeah.
That is in our ordinance now. If you have an STR, you
Mhm.
can't just have one toter. We require them to have more during the season.
Based on bedroom, so it's.
Based on bedroom.
So what's the
Right.
cut difference on what we get off of residential versus commercial? Toter.
Oh, you gotta give me a few minutes. I had to pull up that contract.
But what do we get?
I know, that's what I'm
Yeah,
wondering.
Yeah.
Is
I
it a
mean,
wash? I mean,
there might be $30 difference on the bill, but like how much of that are we? getting?
They're new, cause we went up $2. I'm trying to find their last contract. Sorry, not sitting at my desk. It's harder.
$3,200 short-term rentals is.
No, it is. It's, I mean, it's, you know, but is it like, I guess to my point is, yeah, I mean, do we have 1,000 of them? Do we have 2,000 of them? Do we have, you know,
Yeah.
It's
It
correct.
Probably got.
close to 2 great?
Oh, it's gonna be a high number because the,
probably it's probably 66%,
At least.
2/3.
Mhm. Okay, is everybody in agreement that we should direct staff to look at the numbers and come back with
Yes.
some kind of
Yes.
data? Great, all right, awesome, let's do that. And have Jarvis sit there and run the numbers. Okay. Okay. Item R, discussion on increasing short-term rental registration fees.
Yes.
So we're charging now $125 annually to register short-term rental, whether it's an efficiency.
175.
175, whether it's an efficiency or a 10-bedroom, same amount. With the idea that the cost has to be the cost of registering the process, correct? That's what I was told before, is you can't charge more because it's not.
Well, I mean, you're not supposed to just
Make-
have such a giant fee that you're just stuffing
Right.
your pockets.
So, the other option when I looked at other places was an annual licensing fee, knowing that, sleeping bedrooms that have 10 bring more people to our city. There's more cost of maintaining roads and different things versus the efficiency that sleeps 2. And so I did look for what another city, I actually gave an example here. Austin has a different way of doing it. Fredericksburg, it's 300 for an efficiency. 1 bedroom is 300. It goes up to a 5-bedroom at 1,000. And then they actually charge for an inspection fee, and then Rolette is just 2,000 a property. So I was looking at, the hot tax limits, what can be used. Some of this could be used for can this go into the general fund or not the general fund?
It's Jonathan.
It could go into general fund, which gives us things that we can have other types of revenue to use in the city. And so that's what we looked at, or I looked at, as just a suggestion, and this would be a license fee. It also could be used to manage the STR and help with enforcement or hiring more people or getting stuff to be used, and so that we can take care of this asset that we have. We all would love our taxes to go down over the last couple of years. Well, that hurts us at the city unless we raise the rate, but here's an asset that we could do. And if people decided on their 5-bedroom house, they don't want to pay that licensing fee, and decide not to, then they decide to use it as a secondary home or just go rent it. Once again, those are commercial enterprises that are owned by corporations and they're paying taxes. So this was an idea of what some other people are doing.
So we got the hot tax, and then that's getting ready to be increased, and then this is just another source of.
Is another thing to be used differently.
Hot tax though is paid by the occupant. This is paid by the owner.
Right.
It's a business expense to the owner.
Sure.
Going to the general fund allows us to utilize this income to pay for additional law enforcement.
Yep.
EMS, streets, maintenance, code enforcement, etc., which was the original intent when we said we're going to charge this registration fee to help cover the additional, staff to offset their expense, etc. So I agree that I think that I would like to see city staff explore this option. I don't know what this suggested dollar amount is based on size. I mean, I think $2,000 units kind of steep.
No, I was impressed when I saw it. I was like,
It's good to see. I mean,
I don't think Rowlett is a tourist
I know.
Yeah.
community.
They're trying to avoid. but
That
I
Dallas
put it
area,
in
yeah,
there
Metroplex.
just to-
For reference.
Thank you for the reference,
Yeah.
Dale.
But
But my opinion is I'd like to see staff explore that and again, see what kind of additional revenue we can generate, and maybe that will offset some of the
Year to date,
additional things that are on this Christmas wish list I've seen in the rest of this book.
through the month of May, we're $575,400 on registrations this fiscal year.
Say that again, what?
575,400 through the month of May.
So how many STRs? Like 3,100-ish.
How many?
About 31.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a little over 31 registered. And when ownership flips, they have to re-register.
Mhm.
And somebody else had an STR permit and they charged.
That's
I mean,
3288 registered.
We as commercial people, we have
Flip.
the fire come and inspect us at $75. So when the fire comes in to inspect
Fire marshal.
business, it's $75.
Yeah. Independent contractor. Right.
No, the fire marshal comes and gives you a little
Comes
love
in
letter.
and you type the city.
I just, yeah.
He is,
You might.
he is independent.
Yeah.
Our independent contractor.
I think that's a great idea, Deb.
Okay, everybody in agreement? Yeah.
I like
That'd
your,
be $7
Yeah.
million.
I
in
think
the
your
general fund.
examples are good.
That's,
To go.
let's, okay, see how,
Projects.
what the appropriate amount is, and we'll move that forward. All right,
Real quick, the lunch is on its way. Okay, so if you want to continue or take a break. Well,
How-
it'll
how-
Be here soon.
How
like
far?
real soon?
Yes, they were leaving they had a problem with the oven from Winter City.
Okay, I suggest that we make a stop here and everyone have a break and kind of reset. And let's hope that we can maybe get through lunch and reconvene at, what time do y'all want to start? I mean, it's not mandatory that you stay here and eat
But we're
lunch
bringing
as
lunch
a
here.
group, but we're bringing lunch here so everyone can enjoy. But if you need to leave as an individual to go, that's
We have
okay. It's
pizza,
allowed.
potatoes,
Yes.
and meat.
Yes, certainly allowed. So, but let's have a time so that if some of you do have to leave to do something that we know,
Okay. Is that too long?
How far out is the food?
I think 1 o'clock is fine. I don't know how far.
One.
I think one's
good.
I think one's fine.
They're, I'm sure they're here.
Always want a paycheck.
Sure, absolutely, people. I totally get it. So, all right, we will reconvene at 1 PM.
I'll be ready. I wouldn't say for sure.
I wouldn't stop sweating, but too.
Yeah.